morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it's 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mack, Matthew Roccio, Randy Carricker, and a rite of passage in St. Louis, Missouri. It's the first day of the baseball playoffs. We're all excited to head down to the ballpark today and just enjoy the weather, the ambiance, the collegial atmosphere, everybody wearing their Cardinal red today. Oh, this is what it's all about, guys. I live for this. This is what is awesome.
Randy, the Cardinals will not be one of those teams participating this year.
Oh, I thought things went well.
They finished with a winning record.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, especially the tone after yesterday. Things are very different now here in St. Louis with the Cardinals.
We do have playoff baseball, by the way, today here on 101 ESPN. Padres and Braves tonight at 7 o'clock. And, oh, by the way, the Braves will be without Chris Sale for this playoff round. He had back spasm yesterday. How long do you think he's had that back problem, Matthew Roccio?
About a week back.
There you go. Thank you very much. Yeah, so that one. But you've got 4 games today. Tigers and Astros. They start at 1:30, and then at 3 o'clock, Royals with Cheese and Orioles. Mets and Brewers and Braves and Padres. Do you guys know where why I use the term Royale with Cheese? Why would I use that? Okay, somebody's got it here.
I mean, I'm correct. It's a Pulp Fiction reference, right?
Yes, totally.
I was going to say, this isn't some weird baseball thing that I should have known from the 80s or something like that. Yeah, it's Pulp
Danny,
Fiction
how you
reference.
doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm going to try to battle through this.
Oh, you are a powering big boy.
You're a gamer, Dan.
So my comments will be brief.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I plan to be vociferous today, so I will offset you very well.
We did get a note about brevity is key, so maybe this is a good time to work on that.
Last night, Monday Night Football, Lions over the Seahawks 42-29, and Titans 31, Dolphins 12.
Yes. First Titans victory of the season. Guys, we were buzzing. If you watched the game, you know it wasn't a great game.
Somebody
but if you didn't
game?
watch the game, hey, just look at the score.
Yeah, 31-12.
I watched the game. I did watch the game,
I was
sadly.
watching 2 games at once.
Yeah, and the first thing I said this morning is, Dan, you were right, because you predicted last week that maybe Mason Rudolph would be taking over. Maybe not in the fashion that we thought in that game last night, because Will Levis is just being Will Levis and caused his own injury. He hurt his shoulder, and so he had to exit the game, and Mason Rudolph took over. It still wasn't pretty, but at least that they were able to get a victory.
It set the game of football back by about 10 years.
Yeah,
it was awful.
It looked like Jeff Fisher was back on the sideline, didn't it?
It was awful. That was terrible.
It was so bad. I am sorry. I feel like you should be financially compensated if you had to watch the Titans and Dolphins last night.
And the Lions, the Lions jerseys and helmets were worth the price of admission. Those might be my favorite all-time NFL jerseys. And I know they do BFIB, Black for Black's Sake. Not BFIB, BFBS, Black for Black's Sake jerseys. Mm-hmm. That used to be a thing because you could always sell them. And I know the Lions hadn't worn black in 20 years. But, man, those were good-looking jerseys, and I love the color of the helmets.
I did, too. And we care about that. We care about the helmets. Mm-hmm. We care about the uniforms on this show. And
Jared Goff going 18 for 18 and catching a touchdown pass. More touchdown receptions than incompletions.
I like the Lions a lot.
I do too.
Personally. Just me, maybe because they have a lot of St. Louis influences on there, but I like the Lions a lot. I like Dan Campbell a lot. He's a little bit of a wild card, but that's what makes him so entertaining.
And Jamison Williams is turning into the stud that we thought he'd be. He had this suspension. He's dealt with injuries, and now this year he's been healthy, and he is one of the more explosive players in the league. And so the Lions win it by a score of 42-29 over Seattle. And sad news yesterday from baseball, Pete Rose, the all-time hit king, passes away at the age of 83. Dan, I know that you had opportunities to cross paths with Pete Rose, as did I. Number one, I think it's a shame that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I think if he had shown some contrition during his life, when he had the chance, he would be in the Hall of Fame, but he never did show contrition for betting on baseball. But you can't tell the story of baseball without him.
You can't, and he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. This is going to be a tough show for me. Holy cow. Sorry. I'm trying my best here. But,
gaming.
You know, the thing is that's going to be interesting is that you're watching the playoffs, and you're going to see commercials for FanDuel. You're going to see commercials for DraftKings, and Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I mean, the irony of that does stick out to me.
Las Vegas will be the Las Vegas A's eventually. Who knows when that will happen? Supposedly 3 years, but you still need a place for them to play in. But, yeah, just the irony of all that. So you guys both believe that he should be in the Hall of Fame?
I do.
Yeah, there are people that have done much worse things than gamble or take steroids that are in the Hall of Fame. And so, yeah, I think that he should be. And again, the Baseball Hall of Fame is a museum, and at the very least, there should be a plaque there. Maybe you have to have an asterisk next to the plaque and say, Pete Rose was banned from baseball for gambling on the sport. But there should have been a plaque. He should have been allowed to have a speech.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought enough time had passed, in his life to where let's rethink how we do this. Let's get him back in, and you can't tell the story of baseball without Pete Rose, period.
And if you aren't aware of it, and Frank Cusimano did an interview on Channel 5 with Rose several years ago, but I remember this from 1978. Rose almost came to the Cardinals. He was a free agent leaving the Reds, and he was going to go to either Philadelphia, Atlanta, or St. Louis. He wound up going to Philadelphia because he thought they were closer to a World Series, and he did wind up going to a World Series and going to 2 World Series and winning one in his 5 years with Philly. But Gussie Busch offered him a beer distributorship, an Anheuser-Busch distributorship, to come here, and he passed on that. But he was so close to coming here to St. Louis. He also said that he was uncomfortable because Lou Brock was in the stretch run of his career, and he didn't want to replace Lou Brock because he had such reverence for Lou. But I kind of think with that team, well, they still needed bullpen help, but he would have been quite a linchpin to have on that team. I wonder, I guess the Cardinals would have played him at third and gotten rid of Ken Reitz.
Yeah, I did not know that story until you shared it last night. And that was so interesting to see about what could have been with Pete Rose here in St. Louis. But still, what a storied career that he had. And you guys mentioned it. And I believe it, too. He should be in the Hall of Fame, especially with the way that things have changed around gambling. But the hard part of it to debate is the fact that he betted on games that he was a part of.
Right.
That's the tough part.
And he bet on his team to win. And the problem was when he didn't bet, then all of the bookies knew, well, then we shouldn't bet on the Reds tonight.
Well, the other thing is, how did he manage the game before? So did he do things to manipulate the bullpen to where the next day it was different? That's something to think about. Right. That's why, even though he bet on his own team to win, you still can manipulate the game before, which could make a difference the next day.
And so many ties for Pete Rose in St. Louis. Obviously, the last hit of Stan Musial was a ground ball past the rookie Pete Rose back in 1963. And the Cardinals came back from the strike in 1981 in Cincinnati, and Rose got hit number 3,631. He passed Stan Musial for the all-time National League record against the Cardinals. And, of course, a lot of big hits and a lot of big moments against the St. Louis Cardinals. Pete Rose passing away at the age of 83. And also yesterday, right as the show ended, we got word that Dikembe Mutombo at the age of 58 had passed away of brain cancer, and just an all-time favorite among basketball fans, and a great larger-than-life personality and person who did so much for the world. And rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo as well.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, right at the end of the show, the WAG. The WAG is something that will always stand out. Yeah, it's just something that will always stand out in your mind.
Yeah. Okay, so the story of the day, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this today, is the Cardinal press conference yesterday. The overarching feeling I get in talking to people and in looking at social media is that people didn't get anything out of it, that they felt like it was just kind of a nothing burger. What was your take, Brooke? What was your main takeaway from the press conference?
Honestly, just that. And I do appreciate, that they were all available to speak afterwards. So just kind of peeking behind the curtain so people understand how this press conference worked. We had about 30 to 35 minutes to ask questions. And you have a lot of media there. So there's a lot of questions to get through, because not only was this talking about player development and them recommitting to that, but also introducing Chaim Bloom, who they gave a 5-year contract to. They're committing to him and how he will take over this reset, as they called it, a player development. I think you just need to call it what it is. It's not a reset, it's a rebuild. And I'm expecting next year to be a down year. And I was trying to theorize about maybe they just wanted Bloom to just focus on the player development, which he has been doing, it seems like, behind the scenes, because as we know, it's not like he just came into the Cardinals organization. He's already been there this past season. And they want to make sure that his first year isn't going to be associated with this rebuild that we'll be seeing next season. I think the biggest takeaway that I had is is what I just mentioned there is that they admitted that they decommitted to player development for the past few years. They did admit that. It took a little bit, but they did admit that they didn't focus on player development for the past few years. They realized that they needed to again, and it will be something that affects the Major League Baseball side of things when it comes to payroll, because they're spending a lot of money on their minors and bringing back up things to speed there. They admitted that they fell behind compared to other teams. I think the hardest part, though, is why did that happen? I still left with that question of why did we get to this point where you decommitted from player development for the past few years? You had to have known that it would have led to this point where you have to focus on it again.
I didn't think there was a ton there. I really didn't. Youth movement, you're going to get it now. So we've asked if they went to a youth movement, would you still come out to the ballpark? And the answer would be, for some people, no. Other people, would say yes. How much do Mo and Bloom go over personnel decisions this year? So how much of a stamp does Bloom have moving forward in this next year? How much of a window will the overhaul of the minors take? What's the window? Is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years until it starts producing players? And then I think one of the big questions that I get out of this is that reduction in payroll, so who stays, who goes.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me in the next probably 60 days. You're going to know more about that.
And I'm a people person. I like people, and I want people to stay around, but I also understand that this is the production business. So while from a personal standpoint and a community standpoint, it breaks my heart to see Paul Goldschmidt go, and I think there's a very good chance that he will not, although that was disputed a little bit with some of the comments yesterday. In terms of the baseball side of things, you have to move on sometimes. And the people that we really like, we love Kyle Gibson here on our show. We all love Lance Lynn. Gallegos is already gone. It looks like Keenan Middleton will be gone. It looks like, and Keenan, we hardly knew you.
Yeah.
And it looks like Andrew Kittredge will be gone. But I think the Cardinals next year, with people that are in the organization now, can win 83 games. Do I think they can get substantially better than 83 games? No. Could I see them losing 83 games? I could. But I think with the group of people that they have on hand, if properly coached at the major league level, I think the people that are on hand have the capability of winning 83 games. So I'm not going to begrudge the Cardinals for dumping salary. There were a lot of times during the John Mozeliak era where the Cardinals would have been better off not spending the money. Right? They spent a lot of foolish money over the years. And this time they just, if the players don't perform, at least they're not going to be making a bunch of money.
Exactly. Well, and that is a good takeaway from it. But at the same time, another question I have is, why do we have to take away from Major League payroll just because we're putting that money into the player development?
Inexcusable for a Major League or any pro sports franchise. And I said this yesterday, Brooke, and I will stand by this. If you are the owner of a professional baseball team, a Major League Baseball team, and you have to make a choice between player development or the Major League product, then you shouldn't own the team.
I also think that fans, the only way they would have been happy is if they brought out Mo's head on a platter.
Yep. Yeah,
he
you're right.
even kind of joked about that at the beginning of the press conference.
I mean, that's what they wanted.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of fans want.
I got this from a professional, big-time public relations pro who listened to the press conference yesterday. He texted me, he said, the Cardinals did not ID the problem or the solution or a timeline or a budget to fix the elephant in the room. All of those things that if they have somebody that's a messaging guru in place, they would have gone into that press conference with an idea of, okay, we're going to identify the problem. We're going to provide our customers a solution to the problem. We're going to tell them in general how we're going to fix it from a financial standpoint, and we're going to give them an idea of how long it's going to take. It shouldn't be that difficult, and I know that they have a big-time professional public relations person on retainer that they could have utilized that would have been great at messaging this problem, but they didn't utilize that, apparently.
I was really surprised by the defensiveness, too, because even the question was asked, and I know that we're going to get to this part, too, about getting fans back in. What would make a fan want to come back in 2025? And there was defensiveness of where DeWitt Jr. said, well, this is still a fun team to watch. That was not a fun team to watch this past season. I understand they got to 83 wins, but this was a 500 team. Yep. I know they finished above 500, but guys, this is a 500 team all the way through. We talked talked about the run differential yesterday. It's very clear and showcases how this was not an entertaining team to watch, especially offensively.
I will have my thoughts on that next here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
This Saturday, it's a college football doubleheader.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Direct. Football season is here, and you know what that means. Fall is also here too, and with cooler temperatures really coming and they're on the way, it's time for you to make sure that your home is ready to go. If you've been dealing with those drafty windows all summer, I know it's still a little warm outside, just struggling on those crazy hot days, your AC working overtime, now is the perfect time to upgrade with Universal Windows Direct before that cold weather really starts to kick in here soon. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which makes the windows perform better, last longer, and helps keep your home more comfortable no matter the season. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it all up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home, and a 20-year warranty to the next homeowner. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free, plus 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and get an additional $250 off your next project. So call this number, 314-334-2522, or go to uwd.com. That's uwd.com, and like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
I love my windows.
Well, you know, we were out of contention as the season went on. We were in contention for quite a while. But, you know, when you think about it, we ended up winning 83 games. You know, there was a positive. Young players, as I mentioned, who were a big part of that. And I think it's an exciting team to watch and to follow and to see the other young players that are going to be coming up.
with the Cardinal chairman, Bill DeWitt Jr. yesterday. And, guys, here's what's disappointing to me. The Cardinals have told us for years that we're the best fans in baseball, in part because we appreciate the game and we're intelligent baseball fans. And we are. For me and most of you and you guys, we learned the game from Red Shane Deanston, Jack Buck, and Whitey Herzog, and Joe Torre, and Tony La Russa. So we're a pretty savvy baseball group. And so for Bill DeWitt to tell us this is an exciting team to watch, and I would be excited to if I were a Cardinal fan, is kind of disingenuous. This team was 22nd in Major League Baseball in runs scored. Not fun, not exciting. Only the Jays, Pirates, Nationals, A's, Marlins, Angels, Rays, and White Sox scored fewer runs. Cardinals were 23rd in home runs. That's not exciting or fun. They were 22nd in stolen bases. That's not exciting or fun. They were 16th in earned run average. That's not exciting or fun. This is decidedly not a fun team to watch. So I kind of feel disrespected as a fan. And there is a lot to fix here. As a reasonably intelligent baseball fan, I know that, and I get it. So, Chairman, please don't tell me it's raining as you urinate down my back. It's just, I get it. You can tell me that things are bad. I understand because I see it. But you don't have to try to fool me into thinking that this is exciting.
No, it was not an exciting team to watch. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the young players who did succeed this season, like Mason Wynn. Mason Wynn is an exciting player. We're not trying to take away anything from that. But to say
I think he
overall,
had 12 stolen base attempts.
I would have loved to see more. Yeah. We know that Mason Wynn has the speed. His middle name is Blaze, for God's sake. So you know that he has the speed to go with it. Yeah. There is a lot of very young and athletic and talented guys on the team. We're not trying to take away from that. But if you watched all season long, you knew that it was not an entertaining team to watch. I think the other part of it, too, is Bill DeWitt III. He also added, when it was asked to that question about getting fans back in, since they are not committing as much money to the payroll and it seems like there will be a reduction, he said they're working on a game plan highlighting the game experience and the core of young players, but there wasn't really a game plan that was stated. So when you were talking about earlier about things not being exactly clear as to what this plan is, you know what is a great game plan to get people back in?
Competing?
Winning.
Yeah, it helps.
Winning is the cure-all, and that will get fans back into the stands. So I'm curious as to what this game plan is. Is it more bobbleheads? Is it more in-game entertainment? I don't know what exactly it would be, but we also didn't get clarity as to what that game plan is to get fans back in, but it didn't sound like it was about a winning product on the field.
And I'm fine with them rebuilding, and they don't have to vocalize, hey, we're in rebuilding. I can see what's going on, but just try hard, try to win, make an effort. And I understand that it's going to be a real challenge next year because of the players that they're not going to have. But I would much rather see an 83-win young team than an 83-win old team.
And that was what I was saying before. Will that bring you to the ballpark? If you don't have Arenado, Goldie, Contreras, Gray, which I think is on the table right now, these guys could be gone next year. You're going to get your youth movement, and would fans support that and come out to the ballpark? I think some fans would say, to your point, Brooke, if they're not winning, I'm not coming out. You know, but you got to have a reason to come out if they're not winning. Is it Mason Wynn? Maybe. I mean, he's a fun player to watch, but is there something that's going to bring you out to the ballpark? And I'd be, from the organizational standpoint, that's something I'd be really concerned about, is what is going to bring fans out next year. And that's a major concern, I would assume, for them right now.
And they said they're working on a game plan. As to what that game plan will look like, I still don't know. And that's the thing, is that I still left yesterday's press conference with so many questions rather than answers. And I was hoping that that wouldn't be the case, is that I would have a little bit more clarity. I understand. We said yesterday, Randy and Dan, we talked about this. I understand you don't have to show all your cards when you're discussing every single step of your plan. I'm not expecting you to come out and say, on this date, we're going to introduce this, and on this date, we're doing this. I'm not expecting that clear of a timeline. I'm just expecting more of a plan, a 5-year plan, something like that. I understand that Bloom will be taking over, but what exactly does this reset look like? Because even there was a follow-up question asked of, okay, we're recommitting to player development. There was also the reports, and as we know, Katie Wu pointed out in her article, that the coaching staff is so little in the minors compared to other teams. When you look at the Brewers, they have like 17 coaches compared to the Cardinals' 5 that you're seeing in the minors. We even followed up and asked, okay, so how many coaches will be hired? And they still wouldn't even commit to that. I don't know if you're around for that scrum afterwards with John Mozeliak, but there was still not a commit to how many jobs will be hired there.
And if you're going to have that press conference yesterday, you should have had those conversations. There should be, because of where the Cardinals were this year, we all knew what the situation was at midseason, at the All-Star break, and these are conversations that should have been held during the course of the second half of the season that should have a level of clarity right now. These are not conversations that should begin right now.
The only pushback I would have on saying, okay, here's the window, in saying that it's a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan, you really back yourself into a corner. It's a absolute. And what if it doesn't work? Right? I mean, what if you get to that 3-year ending point and you're stuck? I mean, that's something you got to be concerned about.
And you have to look at history. You have to have a defined game plan, and then say, this is where we expect to be. Don't say definitively. This is a PR thing. This is, well, okay, year 1, year 2, year 3. Theo Epstein did it in Chicago, and it worked perfectly. Luno did it. They actually predicted that they would win in 2017. So you have to be really smart and really have a defined plan as you move forward.
I wonder how good these young players that the Cardinals have would be with more seasoning in the minor leagues.
Would have helped tremendously.
I think it would have too. And I hope they haven't lost Jordan Walker. That would be of concern to me. I hope you haven't lost Nolan Gorman because they needed more seasoning. We just saw that. I mean, you just watched the major league product. They needed more time in the minor leagues, and they were pressed into action, and it didn't work. To me, they've got like 1A players. Brendan Donovan is a really good complementary player. Is he a star, though? I don't think so. You're going to bring back this collection of 1A guys, and that's something you have to be concerned about.
They need Jordan Walker to turn into a superstar.
Yeah.
They really do.
Really do.
And the other portion of this, too, just kind of going back to there's not much clarity. So we saw the other reports, Jared Gould and Katie Wu as well, that the coaching staff will be returning. But then in the scrum afterwards, John Mozeliak said, well, you know, we still have to have those conversations with Ollie with what his coaching staff will look like. What is changing at the major league level next season is my question. What players are staying or going? They were not really committed. I know they can't come out and say, yeah, we're going to get rid of Paul Goldschmidt, but still there's not a clear understanding of what exactly things will look like and change at the major league level. I understand yesterday was about revamping the player development, but what else is happening at the major league level when we're talking about getting fans back in where they will be entertained with the product on the field?
And if you are going to bring the same hitting coaches, Turner Ward and Brandon Allen, back, you have to ask them, say, okay, how are you going to change the approach of your hitters with runners in scoring position? How are we going to solve this major problem? What is your, and you've had 2 years now to fix this problem, what is your approach going to be in 2025 to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
I don't think you can run back the same coaching staff.
I agree.
You're not going to get rid of the players. You know, and you're going to have some of these young players that are sticking around, obviously, and you're going to try to build around them. It didn't work this year. You got to change something.
If you're talking about player development at the minor league level, what about at the major league level, too? Because remember what happened this season when we're talking about those young players. Nolan Gorman, he had a very rough stretch this season to the point where they had to send him down to the minors. He wasn't able to develop properly at the major league level. They gave him a lot of time. It wasn't able to work. He finished the season at the minor league level. Jordan Walker, up and down all season long. That was a big story. What about the player development also at the major league level?
It's a problem. Big problem. And that's a problem that hopefully will be on the shoulders of Ollie. I hope that Ollie gets the power, the juice to be able to pick his own staff and kind of control his own destiny, to be able to walk into a conference room in spring training with all of the minor league and all the major league coaches and say, okay, here's how we're going to play the game. Because somebody's got to do that in the organization, and I don't think they have that right now. Brooke, Dan, Randy, coming up, 4 downs from week 4 in the NFL here on 101 ESPN. Hey, I want you to get in touch with my friends, the great local credit union, Together Credit Union, and check out their Empower checking. Here's a cool thing. You don't hear about this very often. If you get an Empower checking account from Together Credit Union, you will get interest on your checking account. How about that? We used to get that when I was kids. You get money back for keeping money in your checking account at Together Credit Union. Stop by one of their 14 area branches or just go to togethercu.org and you can set up your Empowered checking account, which gives you the ability to actually earn interest on your checking account. It's very cool and it's very local. And when you get a checking account at Together Credit Union, here's another cool thing. You get your ATM card, get the debit card from Citi. The St. Louis City SC debit card allows you express entry into City Park. It allows you 10% discounts on all food and merchandise purchased at City Park, and it is a great partnership between St. Louis's own Together Credit Union and St. Louis's own Together or St. Louis City SC. Check out Empower Checking. Learn more at togethercu.org/empower today.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Yesterday, there was a doubleheader in Monday Night Football. Detroit Lions beat up on the Seattle Seahawks 42-39 as that series continues to be extremely high-scoring wherever those two teams face off. And then it was the Titans getting a big win over the Miami Dolphins. Let's go, Will Levis. 31-12 over the Fins for Brooke Grimsley's Titans. And coming up later on the show, John Kelly, voice of the Blues, joins the show. And the Blues are in action tonight as they face off against the Blue Jackets. You can catch the pregame show starting right here at 6 p.m. on your home for the St. Louis Blues, 101 ESPN and 101ESPN.com. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
It is time now for 4 downs from Week 4 in the National Football League.
First down.
Guys, the best team in the NFL is the Kansas City Chiefs again. The two-time defending Super Bowl champions are one of two unbeaten teams in the NFL. They, along with the Minnesota Vikings, they have the differential of plus 20. They don't win big. They just win. Patrick Mahomes finds a way. But the big thing is Steve Spagnuolo finds a way. The best defensive coordinator in the history of the National Football League keeps finding ways to slow down the opposition. And in an era in which the NFL is trying to get good teams to be suppressed by giving them bad draft choices and having the salary cap, trying to equal everything out, Andy Reid and Brett Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs keep doing it, and they are not only the best team in the NFL over the last 5 years, but they are the best team in the NFL right now as we speak after week 4 of the 2024 season.
How do they keep doing it? And by the way, do you guys have any concerns about Rashee Rice? Because we all saw what happened there with Patrick Mahomes taking out his own player there, especially your most important wide receiver. Are we concerned, or do we just figure that they find a way?
Brooke, they get Hollywood Brown back in 2 weeks.
Nah. Yeah, they always find a way.
Their biggest free agent signing is going to be back. They have Juju Smith-Schuster. Xavier Worthy looks like he is ascending. And Patrick Mahomes just makes everybody better. He makes every receiver that he plays with better. Yes, losing Rice is a blow, but I don't think it's a devastating blow to them. They're just amazing.
No, that was really bad, though, the way that played out.
Oh, yeah, you don't want your quarterback taking out a wide receiver.
I don't know why he did that in that situation.
Just playing to win.
Yeah, I guess so. I just don't want to see a quarterback ever do that in that situation. All right, so second down for me will be...
Second down.
There we go. Okay, I have to talk about it. I know that we talked about it this morning. I'm going to be annoying again because finally the Titans were able to get their first win of the season, but I have some not so fun facts for you as to how bad this win actually was for the Titans. So with the Titans win, they were able to score 30 points for the first time in 1,002 days. After 38 games, they have not been able to score 30 points or more, if that just tells you how bad it's been for the Titans. I sent that to you last night with Paul Kaharski tweeting that out. So the curse has been lifted, ? But there's still a lot of questions surrounding this team. As you guys saw, Will Levis throwing his 6th pick of the year during the first quarter. He continues to be memeable. That's what I said last week. He is a memeable quarterback in the worst way possible. And he's now tied with Anthony Richardson for the league lead in interceptions. There's your not so fun fact. After the second drive of the first quarter, as we talked about too, Will Levis suffered a shoulder injury after he unsuccessfully was diving for a first down. That was absolutely embarrassing. And you had Mason Rudolph take over. And Rudolph was fine. It wasn't anything spectacular. But now the question becomes, will Mason Rudolph be taking over the Titans offense? What do you guys think?
Oh, I think with his pedigree and what he's done in the past, how could you not want Mason Rudolph to be your quarterback?
His pedigree.
You want Will Levis or do you want...
I think Levis has a chance to be decent. I don't think Mason Rudolph does.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, by the way, that 30 points for the first time in 1,000 days, I just want to read some numbers for you, okay? Just numbers. 41, 37, 41, 41, 57, 45, 34, 34. Those are the St. Louis Rams' first 8 games in 2000.
Oh, my gosh.
Pretty good.
And then, so it was brought up, I think, on NFL Live, but I think we brought it up, too. The fact that who scored on 11 consecutive possessions? Somebody just tied the record of the 2000 St. Louis Rams. Who, do you remember what team that was?
The Washington Commanders.
Commanders, yeah. The reason that the Rams scored on 11 consecutive possessions is because Rodney Harrison took that cheap shot at Trent Green before the 99 season, and the Rams played the Chargers, and Martz threw the ball the first 17 snaps of the game, almost all of them at Rodney Harrison, and just lit the Chargers up for 57 that day. And they did not take their foot off the pedal. It was pretty cool.
You ready for third down?
Ready for
third down.
So I went back and looked at the expected win total of Minnesota. This is according to FanDuel. Prior to the season, 6.5 wins, Some thought an 0-8 start looked like a possibility given the early season schedule. Now they've beaten Super Bowl contenders Green Bay, Houston, San Francisco. Sam Darnold has resurrected his career. Justin Jefferson is a freak. And then Aaron Jones averaging 5 yards per carry. And I sound awful. But other than that, that's my third down.
And right now, I think that you can legitimately say Minnesota is a contender for the NFC crown, right?
Yes.
They've got a great defense. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got Justin Jefferson. You mentioned Aaron Jones. And not a resurrected, but just is it rected? I don't know what you say when a guy rises.
I said redemption tour, kind of like what Baker Mayfield
What's he
had.
redeeming himself from? He's never done anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that there was a lot of people who doubted that he would be able to be this guy that he is right now for the Vikings. And I think it's amazing because a lot of people, to your point, Dan, did not expect, and I honestly didn't expect the Vikings to be able to pick up and do what they've been doing this season. But Sam Darnold deserves a lot of credit. Maybe MVP talks down the road.
You've got to have it. I think there's got to be MVP talk for Sam Darnold. And along those lines... Well, we aren't going to do a
third down.
Oh, well, let's do fourth down. Let's do
Fourth down.
There we go. We've got it figured out. It's the same officiating crew that did Colorado and Mizzou. Speaking of Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings, December 22nd, Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings at Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. You've got two former Jets high picks that leave New York and ultimately find their way into being really good quarterbacks. Two things it points out. Number one, don't give up on quarterbacks too soon. And number two, if you can find a Jet quarterback that's been given up on, we're looking at you, Sean Payton. Give him a chance.
Give him a chance. I like that a lot.
Give Zach Wilson a chance.
Oh, yeah.
It is kind of the year of the written off QB, isn't it, right now?
Yes.
Sam Darnold's 4-0. Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields are 3-1. Andy Dalton has brought hope, at least to Carolina. Gardner Minshew is 2-2.
Yeah,
for God's sakes. Joe Flacco even has a win.
Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco. Andy Dalton.
Yeah, the Red Rifle.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
the Red
another one.
Rifle. Yes, it is. It's the story of the backup quarterbacks this year.
Pretty cool. That is four downs from the National Football League. Coming up, get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! On
Do it.
101 ESPN.
Why did you force him to do that?
Hey, kids, our plumbing team at Hoffman Brothers is hiring. They're growing and looking for licensed service plumbers to join Hoffman Brothers' winning team. The services that Hoffman Brothers offer are far from minor plumbing repairs. They've got everything. Plumbing installations, water heater repairs and replacements and drains, and, of course, minor repairs as well. At Hoffman Brothers, they have outstanding benefits, top pay in the industry, and all you need to do is visit HoffmanBros.com to find out more info. Hoffman Brothers, a proud independent independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer that offers an 8% 401k match, company-provided work vans plus gas, cell phone reimbursement, company-provided iPads with cellular data packages, tool allowances and replacement policies, and more. It's a great St. Louis company, and with fall being here, you, as a customer, need to find out about your furnace. So get in touch with Hoffman Brothers at hoffmanbros.com. Set up that appointment today so that you can make sure that your furnace is good to go for the winter months here in St. Louis. The number 314-664-3011 on the web at hoffmanbros.com.
And give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Brooke, Dan, Matthew, Randy, it is the opening drive on 101 ESPN, and it's time for Take It or Leave It. A lot of response on the text line today about Yadier Molina and trying to make him a coach or manager for the St. Louis Cardinals. And specific to that gentleman, take it or leave it, it would be much easier to hire somebody if you could find them.
I will take it, Randy. Oh, come on. He's just busy.
Oh, yeah, busy, yeah.
He's just busy.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
I think it was last February that he was named a special assistant to the president of baseball operations. And I know because you guys make it to the ballpark a lot more than me. I know you've seen a lot of them around the ballpark and out in spring training and stuff.
I have not. I have not.
I don't think anybody has.
No, he's been in Puerto Rico. He's definitely been seen in Puerto Rico, so he's not completely disappeared, just not around the Cardinals organization.
Take it or leave it. That's a little bit of waste of money that could have gone to player development.
Ooh, I don't know how much he was getting paid, though.
Doesn't matter.
I'm
He
sure
didn't
he
do anything.
gave like a phone call every once in a while or something like that. A lot of job titles being talked about too, because Gersh with special projects being VP of that was another. There was so much to unpack from yesterday, but that was another one where it was like, wait a minute, what is that?
And I asked Mo in the little scrum afterwards, I said, so who's your general manager? And he said, it's me. So he is the Pobo and GM. He is the Doug Armstrong of baseball.
And Gersh will now be moved to vice president of special projects.
Which means foot outdoor, basically.
It does.
Yeah, that is a nebulous term used in corporate America for it's been a pleasure.
Hey, that's better than just being fired.
Yeah, it is.
It's nicer.
Little parachute, yeah.
Exactly. It is a little parachute on your way out.
Yeah.
All right, take it or leave it. Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt will be back next season.
Leave it.
Next season for the Cardinals. I should clarify.
Yeah.
They probably will play another season.
Right. I think, Dan, that Arenado is back here. I don't think Goldie is.
It's going to take somebody to take on a good portion of that deal. And at his age and the decline that he's had offensively, I don't know what the appetite would be to take him into your organization.
And right now, if you're Paul Goldschmidt, knowing what the Cardinals are doing and never having played in a World Series, Wouldn't you, if you were pursued by Arizona or Houston, prefer to go to a place where they have a better chance to get to a World Series than St. Louis right now?
And it just tells me that, reading the tea leaves, that this is the beginning of a lot of the blocks falling. You know what I mean? Goldschmidt would be the first, not bringing him back. You know, what kind of haul could you get for Ryan Helsley? That would be pretty big. And if you're talking about replenishing a farm system, you can attach a contract like Michaelis potentially to that deal and maybe, you know, say, hey, we're going to get some money back on this, but that would lessen the haul that you'd get back in terms of players. You know, there's a couple different ways to look at it, but I look at this as being one of the first blocks that's gone.
Agreed.
This is my turn, right?
Yes, it is.
Take it or leave it. I just need to be quiet.
I'll leave it.
Leave it.
Oh, no, I think so.
You're a gamer.
You bring you bring quality content to
No, not
the
today.
table.
Although that Ricola is really helping.
I know. Ricola. We still have some left over from last week. So
Oh, I'm telling you. I sat between you two guys, and you were sick, and now I get this.
Now you got it.
take it or leave it. We're to blame for Dan being
Absolutely
sick.
take that.
Totally take it.
Dan, can you lessen the blow a little bit?
Not at all. I'm giving you trouble.
By the way, one more, Tioli, before we get to the text, 65780. That's like 2 years old since we've done that. 314-399-9646, 314-399.
Yo-ho.
Take it or leave it. Right now, if the Yankees or the Dodgers could get their hands on Ryan Helsley for these playoffs, they would break the bank for it.
Take it. The Dodgers would be all over having Ryan Helsley.
So would the Yankees.
Anybody would.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think you look at a team like San Diego doesn't really need him. Houston doesn't really need him because they've got Hader going again. But the Yankees and Dodgers closer situations have been really dicey down the stretch.
Yep.
So they could really use him. All right, Matthew, what do we have text-wise?
Take it or leave it. The Cardinals hamstrung themselves by not starting this rebuild at the trade deadline in 2023.
2023.
Looking back, yes, I would say yes, but they had every reason to believe, and I don't think it was unfair, that the number 1 and 3 MVPs in 2022 would rebound in 2024. I don't think it was unreasonable to expect that Arenado and Goldie would be better than they were in 2023. So while you can say that with 2020 hindsight, would I have done that in 2023 at the trade deadline by moving those two? No chance.
No. So, yeah, I'll have to leave it for that, too. You expected them to be able to rebound. I don't think anybody was expecting such a down year and slow start for both of them this season.
I read somebody on social media that said that they should have traded Goldschmidt in 22 at the trade deadline when he won the MVP.
I was like, that's the year that he won the MVP?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they won 93 games and were in the playoffs. Yeah.
That can't be a real thought that they had.
I think it might be, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, the tangible thing is just obviously the Arenado deal to the Dodgers, and whether or not that could have or should have gone through or been more tested.
Yeah,
that's my big thing. At the time and in retrospect. Take it or leave it. The Tigers are in the top 5 at some point this season. That would be the Missouri Tigers.
Oh, the Missouri Tigers. I will leave it. I'm sorry. And Mizzou deserves a lot of credit. I know. But did you guys see that Alabama-Georgia game this weekend?
Yep.
So they would have to beat Alabama in order, in my opinion,
after
to be
they
in the
beat
top
Alabama,
5.
they'll be in the top 5.
Okay.
When you watched Alabama, do you think that Mizzou has any shot?
No, but I don't
on
think
the road and winning that
realistic.
game?
it's every game
you
is
seen
so
Texas?
different.
In that third quarter for a minute, yeah.
So it's
true.
The thing is,
After the first quarter, maybe.
every single game is different, and Alabama was at their best against the best team in the number 1 team in college football. I don't expect Alabama to play like that every week. I think that's as good as they can play offensively.
Really?
Yeah, do you? You think they can be better offensively than that?
Better than offensively? I think they consistently can do it. Isn't that what you're
They
saying?
haven't already, but they haven't done that consistently already.
I think that's a really good team over there.
They are. I'm not taking anything away from them being really good, but everybody's capable of losing.
Have you seen the rest of Georgia's schedule? It is a gauntlet.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
They're going to walk away with 2 losses potentially.
Yeah,
Easily.
right. Yeah, all it takes is one more now.
Exactly.
Yep.
Take it or leave it. You learned just about as much from this season's postseason presser as last season's.
I'll take it.
I'll take it because it didn't happen last year. We were kind of left to it. The Cardinals basically said, you can figure it out on your own for our offseason and what we're thinking.
What happened was, I think somebody had to go to a wedding right after the season. That's what was said yesterday. And so somebody had to go to a wedding, which caused them to not be able to do it right after the season. And then MLB doesn't want them to do press conferences while the playoffs are going on. And then once the World Series was over, it was, okay, well, let's not bother.
Did you loudly guffaw when someone gave you that excuse?
No, I
okay.
quietly guffawed.
Oh. Nice and polite. Take it or leave it. 15-1, Pete Rose gets in the Hall of Fame in 2025. 4-1, he gets in 2026.
Take it. Yeah.
But at this point, since he has passed away, do they put him in there? Like, it almost feels like a little bit of a slap in the face. They could have done that when he was alive.
Yeah. He will not be unbanned by Rob Manfred, because Manfred's a Selig guy, and Selig takes it personally because he thinks that Rose was responsible for the death of his friend Bart Giamatti. So, no, it's not going to happen.
Take it or leave it. While you don't trust the Cardinals' development with much, you still trust them more than the Jets' quarterbacks.
Take it. Yeah, you got to take that.
Take it.
Yeah, the Jets are worse at developing quarterbacks than the Cardinals are at developing superstars.
That's saying a lot.
Robert Saleh is nodding in approval.
Yeah, he sure is. Yep.
Take it or leave it. We see 2 sweeps in this first round of the MLB playoffs.
I like this question.
I'll take that. Somebody's always flat. Somebody's always flat.
That's true.
So, Tigers, Astros, I don't see a sweep. Royals, Orioles, I don't see a sweep. But Brewers, Mets, Padres, Braves, because the Mets had to play yesterday against the Braves, the doubleheader, I'm going to say the Brewers and the Padres both sweep. Yes, I'll take it in the National League.
I like that.
Yeah, both home teams get sweeps.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Go Mike Schilt.
Take it or leave it. Sorry.
Anybody else you're rooting for Mike Schilt? It's
Me.
kind of like you're rooting interest in the postseason.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I also kind of want to see if they win, what happens to that organization. Like after, like if the owner gets if he reaches the mountaintop, does he push in a little bit more to try to keep going? Or is it like, no, he did it. I kind of reached my thing. Now I don't need to lose money every year. And does he pull back a little bit? I'm kind of...
Yeah, but their owner died.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
So they
already got $100 million.
I already forgot about that. They're already getting $100 million. Well,
Yeah.
got the answer on that one. Now I want them to win then. Because
Cardinals actually had a higher
plan.
Yeah, Cardinals had a higher payroll this year than the Padres did.
That's going to change, right?
That's so scary.
Yeah.
And the Brewers, too.
Right.
Take it or leave it. This is a 100-loss team next year.
Leave it.
I'm going to leave that.
I will leave that.
So let's just presume that they're able to move Sonny Gray and they move on from Gibson and Lynn, because it's all going to, the offense will probably be somewhat similar. But you've got a starting rotation of Palante.
He's your number one?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, I'm just giving you the name.
Okay, I'm
the
just...
name.
Okay.
Brooke was ready for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
I'm sorry.
So you'll have Palante in the rotation. You'll have McGreevy in the rotation. You'll have, at the beginning of the season, Matz in the rotation. You'll have Michaelis there. He's going to be there. And Fetty. So that's your group to start. So it won't be a lot different than this year.
I feel like pitching did hold their end of the bargain for the most part this season, though. And then you lose.
22nd in earned run average.
Yeah. Hitting wise, what changes? If you get, just say theoretically, Arenado, Goldschmidt aren't there.
I can't imagine that somebody's going to take Arenado's contract. I can't. There's no way a general manager goes to his owner and says, yeah, we should go get this guy with that contract. I think Arenado's a lock to be here. But Goldie's not here. I think you can find Burleson can approximate those numbers at first base. What you need is for Jordan to turn into a player, Jordan Walker to turn into a player.
And you said at the start of this that they're not losing 100 games.
Right. I think they're probably a 79 to 83 win team again next year with players that are currently in the organization. And if that is getting rid of Gibson, Lynn, Gray, Goldschmidt, Middleton, Kittredge. Who am I leaving out? Anybody
Helsley,
else?
maybe.
Maybe Helsley. Yeah. And you can always find a closer. I mean, that's look at history. I mean, the 2006, the Cardinals started with Izzy, ended with Waino. 2011, it was Salas, right? Fernando Salas ended with Mott. 2013, you've got Mujica's saving 37, and at the end of the season, it was Trevor Rosenthal. So many teams throughout recent baseball history have started, world championship teams have started the season with one closer and ended the season with another guy. Gordon Graceffo could be their closer by the end of next year. Tink Hence could be Matthew Liberatore could be their closer by the end of next year.
If the over-under for the Cardinals comes in at like 80.5 next year, I'm hammering the under.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not great. I'm not okay because the way you were saying, I'm like, man, if them being over 500 with that, starting the year with that pitching staff, I don't know how you can expect a team to be 500 with that pitching staff starting the year.
Look at some of the pitching.
McGreevy, Matz, Michaelis, Fetty.
Look at some of the rotations. What do you think of that? Although the Tigers have Scooble, but look at some of the rotations that are in the playoffs right now, and tell me that you expected that they would be there. It's you can now. They might have to do something about Blake Lively, but I'm just saying that you can fix pitching.
I'm just imagining what this team would have looked like without Ryan Helsley this season. Because if that's what we're talking about for next year, how many wins do you think they would have finished with this season?
Yeah, you just got to get another guy. They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go.
What Ryan Helsley did this year specifically to save their butts a million times?
Well. Again, Edward Mujica had 37 saves in 2013. He fails down the stretch, and they wind up with a different closer in the World Series. It happens all the time. Look how many closers the Dodgers have been through this year, and they wound up with the number 1 seed in the National League. Closers, and I hate to agree with the analytics people on this, but closers are the most fungible position in baseball.
You can find them
all the time.
Yep. I agree with that. Now, can you find him at the level of Helsley? Probably not, but can you find a guy that can get you 35 saves? Yeah, you can find that guy.
Yeah.
Which is what you're talking about.
Yeah, we see it again and again and again. That's Dan, that's Brooke, that's Matthew, and that is Take It or Leave It on 101 ESPN. Coming up, the Cardinals are seeing 2025 as a winning season with an exciting team to watch. How dangerous is the current disconnect they have with their fans? That's next on 101 ESPN. You know what it's important to do when you have a dog is to keep it in the yard. And if you want to keep your dog within the confines of the yard, you need to get in touch with my friends at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. 56 years in St. Louis, and they built my fence many years ago, and our dogs are kept within the yard. And it's really a great item because they told me it would be a lifetime quality product. I have a white privacy fence that has been a lifetime product from Chesterfield Fence and Deck. So if you're in the market for a fence, cedar or vinyl, if you're in the market for a deck, cedar or that vinyl Vecca deck, if you're in the market to upgrade your home with maybe a sunroom or a screen room, you will absolutely love the work that they provide at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Give them a call at 800-300-4054 or find them on the web at chesterfieldfence.com. They'll come out to your house, provide you a free, no-obligation project design, and then if you choose them, they'll provide you with an absolutely fantastic plan and a great product. And when you use Chesterfield Fence and Deck now, tell them you heard about it from Randy Carricker and get 48 months interest-free financing from Chesterfield Fence and Deck. The sign you have the very best.
the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
Well, we were out of contention as the season went on. We were in contention for quite a while. But, when you think about it, we ended up winning 83 games. There was a positive. Young players, as I mentioned, were a big part of that. And I think it's an exciting team to watch and to follow and to see the other young players that are going to be coming up.
8:06 in St. Louis. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke, Dan, and Randy, and respectfully, what Bill DeWitt Jr. sees as an exciting team and I see as an exciting team are pretty diametrically opposed, I think.
Very different, right? Because it was not an exciting team to watch this season, especially offensively. It was more painful to watch and just not entertaining. We talked about it all year. It felt like you knew what was going to happen within a game, especially if there was runners in scoring position. You knew that situational hitting was a huge issue for the Cardinals all year. And honestly, it wasn't just this year. It's a problem that we have seen. And that's why I said earlier, I understand. Nobody's going to debate that this is a great thing that you are reinvesting into your minors and into your player development, because we've talked about that, getting the most out of your homegrown players. The Cardinals stated many times yesterday that they want to get back to that point where they have their homegrown stars really grow and thrive here with the Cardinals, with St. Louis. I understand that, but why can we also not develop at the major league level too at the exact same time? There is a way where you can still be competitive, because I believe next year, and they believe it too, just this is my perception on this, that they understand that they will not be that competitive next year, even though they said that they will. If we're going to move on possibly from some of their stars that they have out on this team, they will not be competitive next season. And this is part of the reset or rebuild, whatever you want to say about it. This is a rebuild for them.
And I hope that Mr. DeWitt doesn't believe that the young players, because I do agree with him that there are good young players here, I hope he doesn't believe that they've been maximized, because I think there is significant room for improvement among this young group of players, but I think they need to be properly coached to become major leaguers. If they weren't ready at the minor league level to be major leaguers, and they haven't improved substantially at the major league level, then what makes you believe that they'll get better next year if they didn't do it this year?
I think fans would have been okay if he said this was unacceptable, and we're okay with that in terms of we need to retool this thing. And if they would have done that, I think fans would have taken it.
Bill DeWitt has in the past said that being just 500 or a little bit above 500 is unacceptable in St. Louis. And I asked him about that comment that he made it when the Cardinals fired Mike Matheny in 2018. And I asked him, because that showed up a lot on social media, I asked him about that comment yesterday and how he reconciles the last couple of years and what's happening now in St. Louis with those comments.
Well, I don't withdraw that comment. That is expected in this city. And, as I just said, we won 83 games. That's a winning season, but it was below expectations for us and for our fans. So we're totally committed and all in on trying to reverse that and get back to the playoffs and hopefully go deep.
So I think they're all in is different than what the fans all in is.
Yeah.
Differentiate between the two.
Yeah, I think, but when I think all in, and let's leave the Dodgers out of the discussion. Let's be fair, because the Dodgers are a different animal in terms of revenue. But when you see the Houston Astros do what they do and go and acquire players and use their resources for player development, that to me is fairly and reasonably all in. The Kansas City Royals, they have built a system where they're developing good young players, one of the best in the game in Bobby Witt, and then they invest in that player. Not that they're all in, but I would suggest that they're more all in than the Cardinals are. The Padres are a lower revenue, lower market team than the Cardinals. Now, this year, the Padres had also smaller payroll than the Cardinals. But I think we can all agree that the Padres in the last 5 years have been more all in than the Cardinals have.
Oh, 100%. And also, we talked about Mike Schilt earlier, what he's been able to do. We saw what he was able to do here with the Cardinals. That's something else when we're talking about resources that you're losing within your organization. I hated the way that it all played out. You also lost somebody with nearly 20 years of experience of developing and helping grow players within your organization, completely gone from your organization when you lost Mike Schilt. Look at what he's doing with the Padres this season. He's continuing to find a way to maximize the talent on their roster, and they're seeing the success from it. I think it's really interesting, too, when you're talking about Bill DeWitt Jr. and how he says that they're going to go on a deep playoff run. Is that even something that is feasible when we're talking about Major League team and payroll, and they're not going to invest in that, and we're seeing changes at this level? I understand with the minors it's going to take some time to actually see tangible change there, and they're working on that. But are we really believing that they will go on a deep playoff run anytime soon?
Not for me.
The Cardinals believe wholeheartedly in the randomness of the postseason because they've experienced it. But it's not rooted in reality. They had a couple of magical seasons in 06 when everybody was hurt. A veritable all-star team that got healthy at the end in the playoffs. And then in 11, which was a magical run. And one thing that we have to remember about the randomness of the playoffs is that with both of those teams, you had an absolute stud starting pitcher in Chris Carpenter, and you had the best player of his era in Albert Pujols. So when you needed something to happen, it did. You could put Carpenter on the mound and expect to win. You could send Pujols to the plate and expect that he was going to be a big part of your success. 06, you had Scott Rowland on your team, Hall of Famer. You had Jim Edmonds, borderline Hall of Famer. You had a really good team. Yadier Molina, Hall of Famer in 06. In 11, again, Pujols, Molina, Carpenter. You had really great players. I don't think that the Cardinals right now have anybody that fits into that mold, even potentially to be, as was mentioned earlier today on the text line, one of those dudes.
No,
gotta have the Jimmies and Joes.
Mm-hmm.
I would say too, I want baseball people in the minor leagues.
Yes.
And I know it's going to be analytically driven for the most part. That's where baseball is gone. That's just the way it is. Get me baseball people in the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Get me some guys that have been there. Mix in your analytics. But I want to see baseball people there, man, and teach these kids and just call it what it is. It's a rebuild.
It is.
So it's a rebuild.
Yesterday,
so to answer your question before, when you said, no, it's not going to happen next year. No way. It's a rebuild.
Yesterday, I asked Mo about a comment that I made here before. And it's a reasonable comment. I said, you've lost in the last half dozen or so years from your minor league system, Mark DeJean, Mike Schilt, Ollie Marmol, Pop Warner, Brian Eversgerd, Stubby Clapp, and others. And he said, yeah, but we got Jose Oquendo. Well, okay. You got great. Jose Oquendo is working with rookies. But I don't think that the Cardinals have effectively replaced, when you talk about baseball people at the minor league level, I don't think they've effectively replaced those minor league coaches, because clearly there's a problem. There's a reason that you're redoing your minor league setup, and it's probably because you don't have good enough people down there.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that's what we've discovered, because they're having to recommit to their player development. My question, though, and I asked this yesterday at the end of the press conference, is what happened within the last few years that you had to re-emphasize? I'm trying to get to the bottom of what exactly happened these past few years that led to this moment where you have to recommit to player development. And he answered it. He admitted that they fell behind. Bill DeWitt Jr. did. But at the same time, I understand that whole press conference, the theme was that they're not throwing anybody under the bus. You could kind of say with Gersh that maybe they were, since he wasn't there, and then he has this new role of vice president of special operations or projects whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, projects. Excuse me, not operations, but projects. You could say maybe they were pointing towards him. I don't know. But at the same time, I want to understand, a few years ago, we know that COVID happen. A lot of teams, the Cardinals were not the only ones that reduced their coaching staffs because of COVID. There was a lot of questions of what the future would look like. I understand that. But then all the other teams across the league added back to their coaching staff in the minors. Who made the decision within the organization to say, no, we don't need to do that? That's my question, and that still was not answered yesterday. And they understood that they fell behind, but why did you want to fall behind? Who allowed this team to fall behind in that way? Who allowed this organization to fall behind in that way?
And according to Katie Wu's story, it was Mo given a certain amount of money to spend on the minor leagues and the major leagues. And with the desire to win at the major league level, money was taken out of the minor league system and allocated to the major league payroll, which is probably not a great idea. Now, the other thing that was notable and kind of alarming yesterday is that the Cardinals consistently said, everybody up there, except for Chaim Bloom, consistently said, we fell behind analytically and technologically. Nothing was said about winning baseball. You know, we've fallen behind analytically. We've fallen behind in terms of our technology. But what about falling behind in terms of having players that know how to win baseball games and make winning baseball plays? You fell behind in that regard, too. You can use all the analytics you want, but if a player gets to the major league level and doesn't know how to make a winning play, you're screwed.
That's why what you guys said is that you need baseball guys back within your organization. Look at what the Giants just did yesterday. When we were talking about the press conference, you saw the news that came out yesterday that Buster Posey, who spent his entire career with the Giants organization, is now the POBO. He is heading their operation. That is a baseball guy heading how things are going to be done within your organization.
I found that really interesting.
I did too, because I think that we're kind of changing. We talked about how Moneyball was taking over things in baseball for a long time, but are we starting to shift back to those baseball guys, baseball minds coming back into style again within Major League Baseball?
Chris Young, the general manager of the world champion Texas Rangers. Yeah, we are. By the way, Posey, because I know there will people that will text in right now and say, well, what about Yachty for the Cardinals? Posey was in the office and with the Giants every single day. He was part of the process and learned about running a baseball team. He wasn't off in Florida and then comes back randomly and just shows up as a member of the front office. So the differences between Yadier Molina with the Cardinals and Buster Posey with the Giants are night and day.
Exactly. And even different than the situation that you'll see with Derek Jeter and what happened with him in Miami, because he was the CEO. This is different. Being
it had a literal financial investment in the franchise, too.
Yeah, this is a different situation.
Coming up, the Blues are rocking and rolling. As a matter of fact, they play the Blue Jackets tonight. We're going to talk to the TV voice of the Blues, John Kelly, as we start our Blues Booth segments today here on 101 ESPN. All right, you like deals? I got deals for you at Schnucks. How about this one, kids? Red Baron pizzas, just $2.99 a piece. If you haven't had those Red Baron frozen pizzas, they're absolutely delicious. Now, a limit of 6 when you go to Schnucks, but you can pick up some Red Baron pizzas, take care of the kids for a week of dinners with Schnucks. Also, great deals on soda. Pepsi, Starry, or Mountain Dew cubes, $9.99 each when you buy 2. That's right. You can set yourself up to avoid all kinds of problems in your household. Just get some Mountain Dew. $9.99 cubes when you buy a couple at Schnucks. And fresh bone-in half pork loins, just $1.39 a pound when you head to Schnucks. Use the Schnucks Rewards app, and you'll be able to get 2% back on everything you buy. It really is a cool deal. And So you want some good dinner tonight? It's easy. It's fast. Head to Schnucks. Pick up some Red Baron pizzas, $2.99. Some Pepsi, Starry, or Mountain Dew cubes, just $9.99 when you buy two. And for the weekend, some fresh bone-in half pork loins, just $1.39 a pound at Schnucks.
Talking everything St. Louis Blues as we head into the Blues booth on 101 ESPN. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors. Find your perfect new floor at boardwalkhardwood.com.
Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mac, Randy Carricker. It is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. And if you want amazing, if you want to just have the definition of the word amazing, then just know this, that the St. Louis Blues start their regular season 1 week from tonight. Tonight, they play the Columbus Blue Jackets, and then 1 week from tonight, we are off and running for the 2024-2025 season, as the Blues will be at Seattle for a day game. John Kelly, the TV voice of the Blues on Bally, joins us now. JK, good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Randy. It's great to have hockey back. Very excited for next Tuesday afternoon in Seattle.
It should be fun and unusual, obviously, because of an afternoon game to start, an afternoon weekday game to start the opener. Tonight, of course, is the final preseason game. What have your impressions been? What do you think?
Yeah, they obviously play Thursday as well at home,
right.
Randy.
And Saturday, right.
And Saturday they play up in Milwaukee. My impressions have been that I'm very impressed with the players that Doug Armstrong has brought in. Potentially 8 new players on the opening night roster next Monday. Very, very active in the off season. We all know about the offer sheets to Holloway and Broberg, but, the Blues have potentially, 5 new forwards and 2 defensemen that were not with the club last year, including Broberg and Suter. So, a third of the roster could be turned over. And I think the biggest thing is I think they're better on defense with Broberg and Suter. Obviously, losing Krug for the year is a blow, and it's not good. But up front, they have way more depth on the bottom 6 and a lot more speed and more size in the forward group. So I'm excited for this roster. Obviously, it could take some time to, find some chemistry and get the line combinations right and things like that. Hopefully not too long, because the Central is so difficult and the Western Conference so difficult, you can't afford a bad start. But I think overall this is a deeper and a faster team than we saw a year ago.
John, it's great talking to you again, and we look forward to talking to you for the rest of the season. You're talking about some of the younger players that we're seeing, and the Blues assigning more players to their minors yesterday, but Zachary Bolduc wasn't one of them, and he's been seen skating on the second line with Butch and Shin. What have you seen in his progression heading into the season?
Well, Brooke, yeah, thanks, and it's great to be back with you guys as well. I've seen the progression over the last few years. You come in as an 18 or 19-year-old in a prospect camp, and you might get a few preseason games. And Dvorsky's a great example. A young kid who was a first-round pick a couple of years ago was just sent down, and it just takes time. And now Bolduc is 21 years of age. He had 5 goals last year at the Blues and was very impressive in the prospect games and has been impressive in camp. So I think that if he could crack the top 6 and, be a contributor this year on this hockey club, that's a big boost for the Blues. So I've seen a player that just is getting better and more confident. I talked to Zach last week. He had a very good summer training in Quebec City. He feels that, he's not necessarily bigger, but more experienced, and he seems like a very confident young man right now to me, and he fully expects to make the team. So that's what I've seen from him, is just the natural progression of a really young, skilled player.
JK, who else has stood out during this camp that fans should be watching?
Well, I think that it's tough to say, Dan, to get a handle on a player like Broberg because I think he just played the one preseason game on the road. I watched it, on the stream, but he's been really impressive. A young guy that I believe he's 22 or 23, went to the final last year. And the biggest thing with Broberg to me is that he can skate. He reminds me of a young Jay Bouwmeester when he was drafted by the Florida Panthers years ago, a guy that just can skate and skate and skate. And for a guy that was so young, and he didn't have a lot of NHL games, Dan, last year heading into the playoffs, and by the end of the playoff run, where of course they lost in Game 7 to Florida, he was a regular on defense with Edmonton. So I think that, he's been very impressive. Obviously, we'd like to see him play, once we get into the games and the matchups and things like that. It looks like he'll be with Falk, but they've had him with Parayko as well. But I think generally, Dan, you ask about who else has been impressive. I think Holloway, obviously, he had a couple of goals the other night and the overtime winner. But I just think the speed of this team is the thing that really catches my eye. I mentioned it earlier. And, the Blues, even back in their cup year in 19, they weren't a really fast team. Obviously, they were a great team. They won the championship. But now they're the fastest team that I've seen in many, many years, if not the fastest Blues team in decades. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that the speed of this team is really getting better. And that's the way the game is played nowadays. It's so fast and so many skilled players. And it's really good to see the Blues have that kind of depth.
And, JK, in addition to the speed, when you look at the teams, in addition to the Blues that have won Stanley Cups in the last 5 years, Colorado was an outlier because of their extraordinary skill and the smaller defensemen that they had. But Makar is just a different animal. But when you look at the Vegases of the world, when you look at the Floridas of the world, they have, like the Blues, tall, long defensemen. And you add a Broberg, as you mentioned. P.O. Joseph is 6'2", 185. Kessel, who came up in midseason last year, 6'2", 205. Suter is 6'1", 201. There's a lot more length among the defensemen. This seems to be much more of at least from what I see, much more of a championship type build than what the Blues have had, with all due respect to Krug and Perunovic and the smaller defensemen that they've had.
Well, that's a great point, Randy. And I think you go back years and years and name me a Stanley Cup team that didn't have a strong defense. To me, you talk about goaltending, you have to have good goaltending, and you have to have some stars and score goals and things like that. But name me a team that's won a Stanley Cup without a really good defense. And, I think it starts there. I really do. And the Blues have more coming up in their system. And I'm really excited for this group of 6 or 7. And obviously there's a real battle right now for the 7th spot. And I don't know if the Blues are going to keep 7 or 8 defensemen. But, Tucker played pretty well for the Blues last year at times. And Perunovic obviously is a young kid that's had a ton of injuries. He would like to make the team. They get P.O. Joseph and obviously his brother Matthew is, I had a chance to talk to him. They're really good guys, and he wants a spot on the team. So, I'm excited for that third pairing as well. Assuming Suter plays with Kessel, that could be a really good pairing. Both guys have great size. Suter, the experience at 39 years of age. So I think that you're right, and I mentioned it early when we started talking. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, aside from the speed, that I think the Blues have made big improvements on the back end, and that to me is the foundation of a good team.
John Kelly, great to hear your voice again, and we'll have you with us every Tuesday. Thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks for having me. Talk to you next week.
You bet. Take care. John Kelly, the TV voice of the Blues, here on 101 ESPN. And the Blues do open up, as we mentioned. It's a 3:30 game to open the season next Tuesday afternoon, and you will hear it here on your radio home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Coming up next, as we roll on, we've got the fight, and we need a fighter. If you'd like to participate, 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO, with your name and the word fight. And you can fight me next on 101 ESPN. I want you to feel energized, guys. I want you to feel great. I want you to have the sort of physical stamina to walk 18 holes of golf, to get through a workout, to get through a run that you had when you were in your 20s. And hey, that goes away as we pass our 30th birthday and our testosterone level drops. That's why we need Mentality at lowtusa.com. At Mentality, they're going to get your testosterone level back to where it was when you were in your 20s. How do they do it, Randy? Well, it's easy. You go into Mentality, set up an appointment at lowtusa.com, and they've got clinics in Chesterfield and South County. They're going to do a complete panel on your blood work, find out where your testosterone level is, and then they've got a weekly treatment, FDA approved, which will be applied and get your testosterone level back to where it was when you were in your 20s. It's very simple. Thousands of St. Louis guys have used it, and it'll make a difference for you. And they're going to work with your insurance company to make sure your out-of-pocket expenses are as low as possible. It's Mentality. It's lowtusa.com. When you stop by the office, tell them Randy sent you, and it'll change your life. It has for thousands of St. Louis guys, and it will for you. Mentality, lowtusa.com.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, a doubleheader Monday Night Football. The Detroit Lions over the Seattle Seahawks 42-29. The Tennessee Titans getting a big win over the quarterback-less Miami Dolphins 31-12. The Titans with a great quarterback, so that's a pretty impressive win there. And the Blues are back in action tonight. They face off against the Blue Jackets. Pregame starts at 6 p.m. If you want to hear more Blues talk, go back to our Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcast. Listen to Randy, Dan, and Brooke talk it over with John Kelly. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rocco here, and it is now time for the fight. And we have a new fighter this Tuesday, and it is Mike. Mike, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Great. How are you feeling this Tuesday about this? Have you ever fought Randy before?
One time, but it's been a couple of years, and I had no chance. So.
Oh, you're ready for redemption today.
I guess so.
All right, you ready for question number one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Who is the last reliever to win the Cy Young in either league? Was it Mark Davis, Mariano Rivera, or Eric Gagne?
Last reliever in either league?
Yes. To win the Cy Young.
Win the Cy Young. Okay. I think Eric Gagne sounds right.
Final answer, Mike? Okay, here we go. Which Cardinals reliever once held the rookie record for saves in a season with 36, which has since been broken by Craig Kimbrell in 2011? Was it Trevor Rosenthal, Todd Worrell, or Jason Mott?
Cardinals rookie reliever?
Well, he did have he at one point had the rookie record for saves in a season, which has since been broken by Craig Kimbrell in 2011. So which Cardinals reliever? Is it Trevor Rosenthal, Todd Worrell, or Jason Mott?
Trevor Rosenthal. Final answer.
Okay, question number 3. Happy birthday to Big Mac, a.k.a. Mark McGwire. There have been 15 walk-off home runs in World Series history. Which team did Big Mac hit his against? Was it the Giants, the Dodgers, or the Reds?
Ooh. I'll have to say the Giants. I don't remember the A's. They probably were, but I don't remember them being in any other World Series other than the Giants. So Giants, final answer.
Despite being the hit king, Pete Rose's single season high was 230 hits, tied for 36th best in Major League history. Who owns that record with 262 hits? Darren Erstad, Wade Boggs, or Ichiro?
Ichiro, final answer.
All right, let me go grab Randall.
How are you feeling,
Please,
Mike?
Dan, don't talk anymore. It's painful.
Thank you, buddy.
Painful to hear you talk, Dan.
I know. I've tried to give him my leftover Ricolas, and it's helping a little bit. Randy and I definitely feel like we're to blame for this, Mike.
I was hesitating on asking for another repeat of the questions just because I didn't want to hear it. It was painful to hear him talk.
Yeah, we are accepting blame for this one. Okay, here's Randy in right now. Randy, do you have any grapes today? I see grapes.
I do, yeah. I've got grapes. Yep.
They're green?
Yeah, kind of green.
Why are they also red?
Green, red.
Yeah, that was
Christmassy.
interesting.
Yeah.
At first, I thought you had tahini on your grapes, and I was a little confused.
Tahini?
Yeah, like the spice. Have you ever put tahini on
I
anything?
never have, no.
Oranges, drinks, anything like that. It's amazing.
What's it taste like?
You don't like tahini?
No, you just waded into like white boomerland and you got
sorry.
caught.
I've got to try it. I've got some oranges at home.
Okay, I'll bring you some tahini one day.
Thank you, okay.
It's a great flavoring. All right, Mike is with us.
Hi,
Say
Mike.
hi.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing. How are you handling the Cardinals press conference yesterday? You all right?
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, so do we.
They didn't say much, and they said what, but I think we need to know the how. That's my question.
They said, what? no doubt.
Yeah. Very fair, Mike. All right, you ready for question number 1, Randy?
Ready.
Okay. Who is the last reliever to win the Cy Young in either league?
Okay, so you had Dennis Eckersley, I think, like in 1990. Willie Hernandez was 84, so Eck was after that. I think Eric Gagne may have won a Cy Young in the mid-2000s, like 03, 04-ish. May have been aided. I think he won a Cy Young. And then after that, I think I'm going to go with, and I might disappoint myself here, with Gagne. I think I'll try that.
All right. Final answer?
Sure.
Which Cardinals reliever once held the rookie record for saves in a season with 36, which has since been broken by Craig Kimbrell in 2011?
A Cardinal reliever with 36 saves as a rookie, and Kimbrell broke it. Okay. I will go with Todd Worrell in 1986. I'm going to go with Todd Worrell.
Final answer?
Yes, sir.
Question 3.
Happy birthday to Big Mac Mark McGwire. There have been 15 walk-off home runs in World Series history. Which team did Big Mac hit his against?
I believe he hit it in the series in which the Doyers, the Kirk Gibson series in 1988. I think he hit that maybe in Game 3 in Oakland. I will go with Big Mac, and I think his team might have lost the World Series in 5. It might have been the only win they had in that series. I'll say Doyers, 1988.
Despite being the hit king, Pete Rose's single season high of 230 hits, tied for 36th best in Major League history. Who owns that record with 262?
I'm going to go with Ichiro Suzuki. I'm going to go with Ichiro, who beat George Sisler's record, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to go with Ichiro, 262.
Matthew?
All right, we have a winner in today's fight. Mike taking on Randy for the first time in this iteration of the fight. Does he walk away with a victory, or does Randy Carricker get a win on this Taco Tuesday? Ring that bell.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
Just win, baby.
I'm sorry, Mike. You heard Mr. Buck there, and that means Randy Carricker hit the jack, and he beat you 4-2 in today's fight.
Thanks, guys. How could I forget the Dodgers-A's series? And Jack Buck with the call. That was a bad one. But thank you. Thanks for letting me play.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you
Go
very
through
much.
the questions and answers. It is Eric Gagne in 2004. He's the last reliever to win the Cy Young in either league, and I have a feeling that while it'll be Class A, it will not. That the record's probably still going to roll over for one more year. Which Cardinals reliever once held the rookie record for saves in a season with 36? It was in fact Todd Worrell. Was eventually broken a couple times, but now the current record holder is Craig Kimbrell. The Mariners had a Japanese pitcher break it in 2000.
Oh, yeah, right.
Suzanaki, I believe. Is the
Sasaki, yep.
Sasaki, that's it. Happy birthday to Big Mac Mark McGwire. There have been 15 walk-off home runs in World Series history. Which team did Big Mac hit his against? I'm honestly really disappointed in myself. I didn't know this before I found this yesterday when I was looking for fight questions, because I've always heard about the Kirk Gibson home run, and no one has ever to me mentioned that 2 games after Kirk Gibson hits his home run in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series, Mark McGwire walked off Game 3, a game which was started by former Cardinal John Tudor, by the way. He had been taken out by that time. He walked that game off in Game 3. I had never known Big Mac had a walk-off home run in the same series as Kirk Gibson, nonetheless. But you are correct. They did lose 4-1 in that series. That was the only win they got in Game 3 of that World Series in 1988. So it is Big Mac with one of the very few walk-off home runs in World Series history. And despite being the hit king, Pete Rose's single season high was 230 hits, tied for 36 best in Major League Baseball history. And who owns that record with 262? It is, in fact, Ichiro, who owns the 3 highest hit totals since World War II. It goes Ichiro, and then the next person highest since World War II behind him is, in fact, Darren Erstad, and then Wade Boggs. And it's just shocking to me that Darren Erstad has a season that high. Good for him. But a 4-2 win for Randy Carricker in the fight today. Thank you, Mike, for joining the fight and joining the show.
Thanks again.
Appreciate it, Mike. Have a great day. Coming up here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN, based on the Cardinals press conference yesterday, how do you feel about what they're doing versus what the rest of the division is. That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Direct. Football season is here, and you know what that means. Fall is also here, and with cooler temperatures on the way, it's time to make sure that your home is ready to go. If you've been dealing with drafty windows all summer, struggling on those crazy hot days, your AC working overtime, now is the perfect time to upgrade with Universal Windows Direct before the cold weather starts to kick in. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which makes the windows perform better, last longer, and helps keep your home more comfortable no matter what the season is. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it all up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home and a 20-year warranty to the next homeowner. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free, plus 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and get an additional $250 off your next project. So call this number today. That's 314-334-2522, or go to UWD.com. That's UWD.com. And like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
I'm not sure I would agree with the assessment. There's been a concern for the years. We've done pretty well in drafting and developing players historically. I think the bar has risen, as Heim would say, and there's much more analytics now attached to it. You look at our team, and where did these players come from? Our 6 young players played the most innings this year of any other team's 6 youngest players. So obviously we've had success in that model, and things move and change. And as Heim says, if you don't keep up, you're going to fall behind.
That's the Cardinal chairman, Bill DeWitt Jr., yesterday at the press conference. And while I do applaud the Cardinals for having the most innings from their 6 youngest players, that doesn't necessarily mean that those were good innings. Like when you have Jordan Walker hitting 200 and playing bad defense, that's not something to be proud of. When you have Victor Scott hitting less than 200, when you have Michael Ciani basically hitting 200, sure, they're playing a lot of innings, but does that mean that you're succeeding because of them, Matthew?
I think Gorman's in that 6.
Yeah, he is. So I think we need to take that statistic with a grain of salt. We'd love for those innings to be quality innings, but they could put us 4 out there and we could play innings and we would suck. So just because you've got young players playing innings doesn't mean they're playing quality innings or getting substantially better. And I think our big issue here is that the young players, look at Nolan Gorman, look at Jordan Walker. Sure, you got great work out of Mason Wynn. Burleson had overall a great season, but declined precipitously over the last couple of months of the season. It took a long time for Matthew Liberatore to get going, and I'm more concerned about the quality of play than the quantity of play. And I get that Bill DeWitt has to shine a spotlight on the good things, but I don't think that necessarily equates to success, is having people play a lot of innings.
No, if they were great innings, then you wouldn't need Ryan Helsley to do what he did all season long, because you would have everybody doing what you needed offensively for this team. This team struggled so much offensively. We saw that, and I'm not trying to discredit anything that Mason Wynn was able to do or any of these young players, especially Mason Wynn with how much he was able to grow. But you mentioned Jordan Walker. What is going to happen with him this offseason? That's another thing that we couldn't even get to with the press conference yesterday, because we saw those struggles that he's still having defensively in the outfield. Will that position change for him? Will he turn to a first baseman? There's so many questions still with these young players. Nolan Gorman, will he be able to perform at the major league level again? He struggled all season long. He finished, I think, with a 203 average before he was sent down. We saw those struggles with him this season. There's so many questions, and him pushing back on the notion that there were issues with player development, I think, is a very interesting take on his part, considering that it was also a press conference yesterday about how much they need to refocus on player development. And those quotes that Katie Wu had in her article were very explosive. Just to go back to what was said in that article from this unnamed person within the organization, the Cardinals organization, they said, "I don't know how this was expletive up so bad over the last few years. We are no longer developing winning players. Our system is broken in a way. How it got here, I don't know."
I guess the system is broken because they've recognized that and have to go back and fix it. I would say moving forward, you've got your cornerstones, and one is a cornerstone player, and that's Mason Wynn. Yep. And I think that's clear. And I wouldn't expect him to take a step back going into next year. You have to have Jordan Walker be the kind of player that you think he can be. And if he's not, then you're in trouble. Nolan Gorman has to be at the big league level hitting home runs. If he's not, you're in trouble. So it goes back to your point, Randy. It's not the quantity of the innings, it's the quality of the innings of these young players.
And when you look around the division at building blocks, the Reds have a great building block in L.A. De La Cruz. The Pirates have a great building block in Paul Skeens. The Cubs, I don't know if they have that guy, the superstar guy, but they have gone out and they got Suzuki, who's a pretty good player. Pete Crow Armstrong had a really nice last couple of months.
I like that guy.
I do too. Michael Bush looks like, and granted, I won't even include him because he's a lot like what the Cardinals have.
Yeah.
But everybody in the division has something that they feel like they can lean on and be good. The Cardinals don't have that uniqueness anymore. Their uniqueness used to be that they would have, like with the Memphis Mafia, okay? The Memphis Mafia was great, but what did the Cardinals do when they needed a supplement for the Memphis Mafia? They went out and acquired Matt Holliday. Are the Cardinals going to make those sorts of moves anymore? That's why the Cardinals succeeded, because they did have youngsters. And granted, they got lucky and had the superstar in Pujols, but historically, they always were able to go out and supplement their youngsters with good, solid veterans, making trades. And of late, the Cardinals have not been able to make those trades to have the players added to their youngsters that get them over the top. They've added the players, but they haven't gotten them over the top.
So you come away from this press conference feeling what about the organization?
Bewildered.
Kind of
Yeah. Here's the thing. I said this at the top of the show.
Yeah.
I'm fine with them cutting payroll. And I am of the belief that with a group of players from their roster right now, if you take out Lynn, Gibson, even Sonny Gray, Goldschmidt, Keenan Middleton, Kittredge, if you take out that group, I still think the Cardinals can be a 500 team next year with the group of players that they have on hand.
Better get some pitching.
Yep. And
those young guys need to be good.
You need McGreevy to step up.
Yep.
You need Palante to step up. Is it Palante or Payante, by the way?
Palante.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Gordon Graceffo does something. Maybe Quinn Matthews shows up on the scene next year. But you can be a 500 team. Here's my question, though. When you look at the teams that are the favorites in the National League, two best records in the National League this year, what's the common denominator between the Phillies and the Dodgers?
Frontline starters.
Yeah.
Yep.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And tons of studs.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals, while having a lot of good players, who's a great player on the Cardinals right now?
I think he's got a chance to be, but not right now, is Mason Wynn.
I agree. He has got a chance to be.
He's very good.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough. And the Cardinals, if they're going to compete for championships, they're going to have to develop great players because they aren't going to buy great players. We know that. Dodgers can buy great players. Phillies can buy great players. Cardinals just aren't swimming in those waters. So they need to develop great players. So this all comes back right now. If the Cardinals are going to win in the next 2, 3, 4 years, Walker and Gorman need to turn in what they thought they would turn into.
And I think you can say, hey, my voice is kind of coming back a little bit.
Oh, this
is exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it goes south. I think you can say that in the next 2 years, you develop some of these players, and I would expect, and ownership should then supplement that roster with free agents. Now, are you talking about going into the deep waters that you're talking about, Randy? No, I don't think they're going to do that. But can they supplement them? Supplement this team with some decent free agents? They should be able to do that. The money should be there to do that.
How much do you think, though, that the TV situation and the uncertainty that you have with Bally and everything with that is affecting their decision with payroll and how they're approaching all of this?
The biggest thing.
It's got to be. It's got to be huge.
It's their number one revenue source. If you put a pie chart together, the local television revenue is the biggest part of that pie for the Cardinals. Then ticket revenue, then national TV revenue, and then MLB properties and merchandise. I think number 4 might be partnerships and sponsorships, and then number 5, like MLB properties, jersey sales, which all get split evenly among every team. Like if the Cardinals sell a Jordan Walker jersey, they don't get the money for it, except for the Cardinal team store. They make that profit. But everything that's sold with an MLB mark on it, that goes into a central fund, and then all the money is split equally among the 30 teams. So the Cardinals don't benefit at all from selling an extra number 5 jersey, for example. So that's a small piece of the pie. But the biggest one, obviously, is local TV. And with the lack of knowledge about what local TV is going to be, the Cardinals are risk averse. They aren't going to wade into waters where they don't know whether or not they're going to make or not make money. And one of the things that Bill DeWitt III said yesterday is that ultimately everybody in baseball, every team in baseball is going to be in the same boat in terms of local TV revenue. And so everybody will be playing essentially on the same kind of playing field that they're playing on now.
And they mentioned that they are working on an app. That was something else that Bill DeWitt III mentioned.
Yeah. And one of the things that has hurt baseball, and Greg Amsinger's talked about this a lot, is the blackouts. And they want to have a direct-to-consumer app that people can buy and watch every single game available.
I think what's going to be interesting is this offseason, how they promote the team. if you do get rid of Sonny Gray and you don't re-sign Goldschmidt, Arenado, it's up in the air. I mean, they're talking about cutting payroll, so these are things I'm sure that are on the table that they're going to look at. Is promoting the team, and will fans come back out? Like, what will the crowds look like next season? I'm really interested in that.
Well, we're talking about the TV stuff. So, it's either one or the other. Like, there isn't going to be a plan where each team, where teams are running their own networks, and something where MLB's doing it all. It's either going to be one or the other.
That will happen down the road. That's not going to happen immediately. But down the road, MLB will have everything. It'll be within the confines of MLB. But
isn't that different than what Druid Jr. Triple Stick said about an app? Like, I feel like those are different. Those are different plans.
Yeah, that's where we're headed. For example, the YES Network isn't going away anytime soon.
So
the Marquee Network isn't going away anytime soon. Spectrum, the Dodgers Network isn't going away anytime soon. But eventually, when all the contracts are up with the Spectrums,
yes?
yeah,
okay,
then that's when MLB will take it all in house.
So but when I don't know when the SNY and the YES contracts end, but I feel like there's probably going to be a gap there where the Cardinals need a TV deal, but those ones haven't expired and MLB hasn't taken over completely. So now, how many years are we talking about where they are getting outspent by teams or out-revenued by teams because of that?
Baseball is making teams whole. Like right now, the Diamondbacks and the Padres don't have TV contracts, but MLB is paying them the cash that they would have gotten from Bally before. They're making them whole, and slowly but surely, when different contracts are up, MLB will take over piece by piece, and eventually they'll have all 30 teams. But that might not happen for a decade.
Really, that long?
There's a lot of
because of the revenue that the Yankees generate from YES and the Cubs generate from Marquee. They don't want to give that up.
No, they don't.
But they also have contracts, and baseball is, I believe, going to prohibit them from signing new deals with carriers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm just saying that it feels like if that's how long the runway is, there will be years there where teams are going to be getting fairly different amounts of money.
Oh, yeah. But they do now.
When they do now. But I'm just saying is that evenness that you talked about is a long way away. Where there is going to be huge, big, the gaps are not.
Yeah, there will never be evenness in MLB.
But at least to the point where we're talking about 5 years ago where everyone knew we're getting this amount of money guaranteed and everyone could spend with that in mind. We're talking about that guarantee not being set in stone again for
Correct.
Almost a decade.
Yeah, because there's not going to be TV contracts. It's going to be all in-house. Right?
That means the entire economy of the sport is going to be different than it was the last decade and the next decade.
It will. That's Matthew. That's Brooke. That's Dan. I'm Randy. Coming up, we've got our Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. 9:06 in St. Louis. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Matthew. Baseball today, this afternoon at 1:30 on ABC. You've got the Tigers and the Astros, Game 1 of the 2024 Major League Baseball playoffs. The Royals and Orioles play on ESPN2 at 3 o'clock. Then tonight on ESPN at 4:30, it's the Mets and the Brewers, followed by the Braves and Padres, Game 1 of the wild card round. Of course, the Mets and Braves had to play a doubleheader yesterday in Atlanta, so the Braves had to make their way out to San Diego for their game tonight, and the Mets had to make their way from Milwaukee to Atlanta for a doubleheader back to Milwaukee. So that's been their trek here over the course of the last few days. And Atlanta, because of back spasms for Chris Sale, will not pitch the presumptive NL Cy Young Award winner in this series.
Wasn't it really interesting to see, too, that they were able to celebrate on the field together just because of how weird that whole situation played out?
Yeah, it's great. That's fun baseball.
The first game was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Mets and the Braves, that's a classic game. And then the Braves obviously earned the split. But it was fun to see. And to your point, Brooke, it was unique where both teams, same day, get into postseason play, and then they decide to celebrate together. It was as unique as you can find.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And then beforehand, Sale had walked into Brian Snicker's office and said, Skip, I'm hurting. I got some spasms here. And Snicker asked Sale, he said, well, how long have you been dealing with this, Chris?
Awful.
And Chris said,
About a week back.
There you go. And so...
do you know that for sure? Were you in there?
That's what I was given to
Cite
understand.
your sources, Randy.
Give me some sources.
The 101 ESPN microphones were there.
No, were they?
Cite your sources for that. Dan, we knew that was coming.
Oh, he
as soon
did
as
it
he
earlier,
said
too.
back, I knew that it was coming soon.
A couple of Monday Night Football games. You guys like the dual Monday Night Football games going at one time?
Love it.
Yeah.
I think it's fun to have two TVs going at one time. And it's especially fun when the Titans can come away with a victory like they did over the Dolphins 31-12 and the Lions over the Seahawks 42-29. A perfect outing for Jared Goff, 18 for 18. Plus he caught a touchdown pass. Do you guys know the all-time record? I thought it was going to be on the fight today, so I looked it up. All-time record for completion percentage in a game by an NFL quarterback. And the minimum is 20 passes attempted.
I was going to say, it's 100% set last night.
Yeah, but
before that, it was And you, because
what was it?
No, because I had the 1942 stat, 18 of 19 was like the best game before this, or the closest ever to perfection before this game. Son of a, I don't have
Drew
this
Brees, 29 of 30 with 4 touchdown passes. Yeah.
Wow.
I did see that last night.
Yeah.
I hate myself for not putting. That's why I didn't put it on.
I would have. I figured that was coming. So
that's why I didn't put it on.
That's good. So Jared Goff, really good. Would you rather have Jared Goff right now or Matthew Stafford? Now, if you're the Rams, you take Stafford because you won the Super Bowl with him. But right now, as we speak, would you rather have Goff or Stafford?
Goff.
I love Stafford. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I understand that he could be done at any time in this stage of his career, but I love Stafford.
I like him a lot. I just would take Jared Goff right now.
Exactly. Especially if you're talking about having him for a little bit longer than Stafford. That Titans game, guys, was really bad. It was so bad.
Oh,
you
come
talk
on.
about the final score. They were able to win, but at what cost? Because if you watch that game, you should be financially compensated. Just two absolutely terrible teams. I was saying earlier, the MVP of this game was Folk for the Titans, their kicker. He was really the reason that the Titans were able to win.
Is he a latter-day thicker kicker? Kind of is, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got. Well, they've had a few. Randy Bullock, remember Randy Bullock?
Oh yes.
He was like 6 foot and 240, but man, he could kick.
You know, that game showed me like how much Tua is missed and how good he really is. Like for people that don't give him enough credit, go watch that game last night. If they don't have him, they're awful, and they are awful.
And if I'm the Dolphins, I have to draft a quarterback. Number one, I don't think, if I were the Dolphins, I don't think I'd let him play again.
I don't either.
I would be concerned about him dying on the football field or a result of a hit on a football field. But I have to draft another quarterback because, all due respect to Soup Huntley, but how can you just not get the ball into the hands of Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, they need a quarterback right now in Miami. I'm surprised that they didn't go out and get one. Maybe they will here soon because clearly the quarterbacks they have cannot do the job. As for Tua, when was the timeline expected for him to return? I haven't seen any updates.
He still has 2 weeks left before he can come back because of the IR.
Has there been any updates on the specialist that he was meeting with?
But if you're the Dolphins, I mean, last year you had Mike White as your backup. He's on the Bills practice squad. Why don't you just go sign him off the Bills practice squad?
Ryan Tannehill's still out there.
He doesn't want to do it, though. He said that he's waiting for a good team.
Yeah.
A good team.
How about a job? Just go get a job.
He watched those games. He said, I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah,
I already had to deal with a couple of O-lines with the Titans. I'm not doing that all over again.
He sees the off the couch. By the way, did you see the great Joe Flacco interview the other day after the game where he said that Anthony Richardson told him that Anthony Richardson's mom is just 8 days older than Joe Flacco?
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
8 days.
Yeah.
Yep, I saw that.
And that Aditi Kinkanawaba said, so does Anthony Richardson think you're cool now? And he said, yeah, well, Anthony told me a few days ago that his mom is 8 days older than I am, so I'm the furthest thing from cool for him. Yeah, pretty wild. That is your Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, do you feel like with the struggles the Cardinals have endured that the front office took enough accountability yesterday? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Stewart's American Mortgage. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home, refi, looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things, we can make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. He will help you every step of the way. If it's a new home you're looking to purchase, he'll get you to the closing table fast. Try 10 days. He has the bagel loan. If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, and no closing costs. Stewart is your guy. He makes it easy. Call him on his cell phone, 314-324-4440. 314-324-4440. Or you can Google the bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
there are some things I hope we can accomplish. I'd like to set us on a course to get back to consistent winning. Focus on the buildup of our baseball operations. Invest in new infrastructure and technologies. See the groundbreaking in Jupiter. You may ask yourself two simple questions. What is this and what is it not? What it is, it's a multi-year strategy, a focus on player procurement and development. It's a long-term investment in the organization's future. What is it not? It's not a Band-Aid solution, and this is not an excuse.
John Mozeliak yesterday, the last words were encouraging, not an excuse. One of the things I really appreciated about and have appreciated about Doug Armstrong over the years is, for example, when he fired Craig Berube, he said, hey, this is my team. I gave him this team. This is my fault. This is on me. And he takes full accountability. And that was one of the things yesterday is the Cardinals, and they did admit that they have been passed up by multiple other teams. We've mentioned that on the air a lot here, that they have been passed up in the way winning baseball organizations are built by numerous other teams. And I guess the question is, do you feel like they took enough accountability? I'm fine that they admitted that they've got a problem and that they have to fix it. And we don't need to denigrate any individuals, although I think it's pretty telling that one guy did lose his title as GM and is now a vice president of special projects. But I'm fine with the level of accountability shown yesterday. What about you guys?
I felt like I still had too many questions coming away from it. So I understand that you're not going to go out there and point fingers and different things like that, but I don't know if I felt like full accountability was taken in that situation because the answer still was not question, or there still wasn't the answer to the question in regards to how did it get to this point in the first place, and how come somebody didn't identify sooner that they needed to replenish their minors and get back to committing to their player development.
I came away with just more questions than I did accountability. I knew that there was going to be something like this that came out, and it did. I just have more questions, like how much will Mo and Chaim Bloom go over personnel decisions with the Major League Club this upcoming year? Chaim's the guy, but then you get to the trade deadline or you go to the GM meetings and who's pulling the strings.
Right.
I kind of am really curious about that.
And Mo is the GM. With Gersh gone, for this coming year, Mo will be the general manager in addition to president of baseball operations.
So it'd be really interesting. Like if all three of us were sitting there and Rocc as well, we all go to the GM meetings and we all have a voice. Who's the final voice for this year? Because you're trying to set the foundation for years after this when Mo isn't there, and it's on Chaim Bloom. So how does that work? I'd really be curious. You know, does Chaim really have the final say where Mo says, I got this deal. Do you want to do it? And Mo says no, and he says yes. How does that work?
Right.
That's interesting to me.
I would think hopefully they are collaborative. But I think if Bloom doesn't agree with something that Mo wants to do and Mo wants to do it, I think he will. Meanwhile, a lot of players have come up here and not succeeded at the major league level. And John Mozeliak was asked why.
Yeah, I think just really at a high level, when we talk about the changes that we're hoping to see or the investments we're hoping to make, it's not a reflection on that we weren't doing it right. It's just the market's changing and how players prepare and play for games, that's moving. And we don't want to just be reactionary to it. In other words, just practice best business practices. We really want to be out in front of this. And so we want to put a lot of time, energy, and money into being on that innovative side of maximizing player performance. Certainly when you look at the group right now of our top prospects, there's a lot to be excited about, not to mention we have 5 or 6 players on our current roster that are under 25. So I really feel like the overall vibe of what's happening in our organization is a lot more positive than maybe people are making it out to be. But ultimately, we know we can find better ways to do things, and that's ultimately our goal.
And I would say quickly that for me, the overall vibe is Gorman and Walker. Those are your 2 first-round draft choices that you put all your eggs in the basket of.
And the continued progress and assertion of Mason Wynn as being the face of your franchise.
Right.
I'd throw him in there too.
I have a question for you guys, and this was something that was asked during the press conference yesterday, is why delay the inevitable? The inevitable being that John Mozeliak will not be the president of baseball operations here soon. Why do you think they didn't just go ahead and have Bloom take things over for this coming season, which he will be doing in the foreseeable future for the Cardinals? Why are they delaying the inevitable? Why did they want to give Mozeliak one last chance in this position? I understand that there's a contract and that he has one more season, but why not just go ahead and start this transition?
Brooke, I think you just answered the question. And we asked the question yesterday. If you have a question, follow the money. And I'm convinced when we're talking about, if you had the Mo money, let's assume John Mozeliak's making $5 million. You apply that to your minor league system, and you can have a hell of a minor league system. Now, a lot of the expenditure that they're talking about is going to be on upgrading Roger Dean Stadium, which is about $100 million. But in terms of building a minor league infrastructure and paying coaches, $5 million would go a long way. I am of the belief, although nobody's ever told me this, that the Cardinals are really reluctant to pay people for jobs that they aren't doing, i.e. a manager that's under contract through 2026, a Pobo who's under contract through 2025. Obviously, the general manager is being paid for, the former general manager being paid for a job that he's not doing. I just think at this point in time where the Cardinals are, let's be honest, they're penny pinching, I don't think that they want to pay Mo to not do something. And I don't think Chaim Bloom is making in 2025 what he's going to make as the Pobo in 2026.
The way I took it, too, is that this project that they have in the minor leagues must be way bigger than we possibly could give it to trying to figure this thing out, that they are so far behind in their viewpoint of what's going on in the minor leagues to sit there and throw this on Chaim Bloom and then also run the Major League Club. Mm-hmm. Two animals that might be tough for one guy to handle.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point from the 636 too, and I think this is another important theory here. They don't want Bloom as the face to blame when we look back on trading Contreras, Arenado, Helsley, and whoever else. Mo falling on the sword.
I could see that. Yeah, I think that's legit.
Because when people think of Boston, and with Bloom, what do they think about immediately?
Yeah, Mookie Betts, right?
Exactly.
And Mo's already the villain, so it's not going to make any difference at all. He'll be the villain in a lot of people's eyes, regardless of what happens in 2025. So if they know that, if they're self-aware enough to recognize that, then just let him walk out the door as the villain that traded those guys.
I think the other portion of this, too, that this is just my own personal takeaway, is that they don't see Mozeliak as really the reason why player development fell apart. Maybe Mozeliak wasn't the one who made the decision not to add back to player development. It could have been somebody else within the organization. It could have been a DeWitt decision to be able to do that. Maybe that's another portion of this, is that they know behind the scenes Mozeliak wasn't the one who made the decision to not replenish the minors.
And Katie Wu did report that Mozeliak is given a certain amount of money that he has to allocate to the major leagues and the minor leagues. And allocation of minor league funds was taken out to add to the major league roster so they could sign people like Corey Dickerson and Keenan Middleton.
Corey Dickerson. I forgot about that contract until you brought it up the other day.
Yeah, great.
How will you remember his era, Randy?
10 for 10. He had a stretch
August?
of 10 for 10 in August.
In August.
He did have a stretch, yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
You asked the question. That's just what I remember.
I wanted that answer.
Any of us will remember. So I think one thing that the Cardinals, I hope they do, and I think they tried to avoid this yesterday, is in the words of a guy who was in the fight and a great Cardinal of the past, we're not here to talk about the past, but they darn well better get the future right, because they're on the clock now, this ownership and this group of front office people, they're on the clock. Okay, late take it or leave it for you guys. Okay, for all three, take it or leave it. You could forgive Stan Kroenke if he would buy the Cardinals and put enough resources into them to be great.
Randy, why are you asking this question? Why?
I'll do it.
Why are you asking this question?
Because he has said in the past that the franchise, and he said this while owning the Rams, the Avalanche, and the Nuggets. He said that the franchise that he wanted to own most was the franchise that had Enos Slaughter, whom he's named after, and Stan Musial, whom he's named after. So take it or leave it. You could forgive him if he would bring the Cardinals back and sign big-time free agents and get the Cardinals back to their perch atop Major League Baseball.
Have you lost your mind?
Leave it.
I'm just throwing it out there as a Tioli.
I'm not forgiving you for bringing this on the air, let alone forgiving Stan Kroenke for what he did. How dare you, sir?
Randy, are you taking it or leaving it?
If you take this,
I swear
I'm leaving. So take it. I'm out.
I can be purchased.
Really? You can be purchased? No. Stan Kroenke coming back, taking over the St. Louis Cardinals, and you would be bought back in.
So
I'd rather you take live money.
Oh man, it basically is.
I'd rather you take live money.
It is.
So, but what if he would treat the Cardinals like the Dodgers treat the Dodgers?
No. Keep him out of here.
All right.
Randy, I already had.
Come on.
I already had to watch a commissioner hand him a trophy.
That was tough.
I can't do it again.
I didn't watch that.
It feels like it would be.
Can't do it again.
It feels like it'd be illegal for him to set foot back in St. Louis.
It kind of feels like it, yeah.
Should be.
I feel like that wouldn't be allowed. I don't like this theory that you're putting out there,
Neither
Randy.
does the text line. Somebody says Randy. That's just the text is just Randy, and also somebody says, "Get back on your meds, Randy. What's going on here?" A lot of F. Stan Crockies are coming in.
Good. Okay, we like this. Okay, I just wanted to toss it out there.
I think I just heard Michelle's skin crawl from New York.
Yep, it did.
Enos would move them to Nashville.
Oh,
That's one of the. Yeah.
Oh, no, he would move him into a stadium right next to SoFi.
Probably would.
Yeah.
Three teams now in L.A.
Yeah.
Thanks to Stan.
Cardinals to LA. Coming up, we want to hear more from you. Do we have mic drops today? Did anybody check in with a mic drop with the app?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, we'll hear a couple of mic drops before we have rock and roll at the end of this show, and we're going to give away Thomas Rhett tickets on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Okay, it's a glorious day in St. Louis, and the best patio in town is going to be open this afternoon at the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. It's just 2 minutes away from the soccer park. And number one, you're going to have awesome weather. Number two, you're going to have awesome servers. My friend Kelly, the feisty redhead, will be there. Megan will be there. You'll get a chance to stop by and say hi to Casey and, of course, Chuck, the big boss. That entire crew will be on hand, and they'll be serving the most delicious trash wings that you have ever had. They're unbelievable. The trash wings at Fenton Bar and Grill are the best ever. You can learn more about them at FentonBarandGrill.com. You'll see great photos of their glorious trash wings. Have those trash wings with their signature golden sauce or their ranch, and you'll absolutely love it. But have yourself a wrap or a salad or a burger. The menu is fantastic. And we'll be talking sports. You'll be talking about the Cardinals today over at the Fenton Bar and Grill. It's going to be a group of people that you can really relate to because they're sports fans just like you. So if you're looking for a great place today for lunch, happy hour with 6 different appetizers for $6 each. Maybe you want to stop by for dinner tonight. Anytime you want to watch some sports, it's the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. And when you go, tell them Randy sent you.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night, wrapping up Week 4 in the NFL with a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. It was a big win for the Lions, 42 over the Seahawks, 29. Tennessee Titans also walked away with a big win over the Miami Dolphins with a 31-12 win in that game. The Blues are in action tonight on your home for the St. Louis Blues, 101 ESPN and 101ESPN.com, as they face off against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Pregame starts at 6 p.m. You want to hear a little Blues talk, you can go to our Dobbs Tire and Center's podcast later today as John Kelly joined Brooke, Danny, and Randy to talk it over. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
How does Mo still have his job when he basically admitted that the organization has lost its way enough to where they aren't doing player development and they have all the other problems they have, and they had to hire Heimblum to come in and find all these problems and fix them because Mo couldn't do it himself because he didn't know what he was doing? I don't know how he's still in the position he is. Wow, we know that.
We do appreciate your mic drops. Dan, you know this better than I. But I think people probably, because we just aren't as intimately involved, we probably can't appreciate the relationship that Bill DeWitt Jr. has with John Mozeliak. He has called him like another son before. And I don't think that John Mozeliak is looked at by Mr. DeWitt as just an employee.
I would agree, especially when Mo got the position that he was in. Remember, this goes back to when, Mo was working for Walt Jocketty. I mean, he's been there a long time.
Since 95.
Yeah, and so when Mo, was moving up the ranks and then became the general manager, his sounding board in many ways was Bill DeWitt Jr. They're very close. We had a text that just came in, and I'm just going to switch subjects here just for a second. And I thought about this yesterday, and I'm glad that the texter has brought this up. And again, I apologize, everybody, for my voice. Hopefully it's going to get better.
I think it sounds stellar.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Very sexy, I think.
Lady love.
Don't answer that, Randy. So,
you got him riled up now.
I do.
My lady love.
Randy.
If Arenado and Goldschmidt had just played to their average offensively, would they have won another 10 games, putting them in the playoffs? Yep. And I actually thought about that yesterday. If you would add players play to and control. Now, I understand this is woulda, coulda, shoulda. But if these guys would have played to their potential We're talking about the Cardinals playing today, and we're not having a press conference yesterday. We're not talking all doom and gloom. It just would have been a different way to look at this season, and I actually think that that's legitimate. Now, did they need to go back and fix what's happening in the minor leagues? Clearly. That is something that they needed to address. However, if players play to their capabilities, we're probably not having this conversation this morning.
No. And to your point, this is another question I have, because when you win 83 games, you were able to improve from last season. We did talk about a lot of the issues that we saw this season with the Cardinals in general. And you just touched on it there, Dan, is why couldn't they also continue to build off those 83 wins this season at the major league level and do this with player development? Why couldn't they do both at the same time is my question.
Yeah, and I guess they have to look at it as and take a really hard look at where they're at and an honest evaluation. And their evaluation was, we can't run it back like we did this year and then hope.
Yes.
Hope that Goldie gets better. Hope that Arenado's going to be better. Hope that Jordan Walker turns into the player that you think he can be. Hope that Nolan Gorman's going to pop 25 home runs. And I think their evaluation was, we just weren't good enough, and we need to, revamp this, retool it, rebuild it, whatever you want to call it. But that is something that I think the way that they looked at it this year, right or wrong.
And if Arenado and Goldschmidt play to their career numbers this year, and the Cardinals do win more games, it's just a deodorant for the minor league system still failing. And the situation with the minor leagues would not have changed. They still would have had the struggles with the system and developing good young players, but they would have won more one-run games. So ultimately, this situation was going to rear its ugly head.
Do you guys think, though, that the minor league system was really that bad? I mean, they're producing players. I think that maybe the question is, are you getting the most of what you expected from these players? And that is the disconnect.
My issue is
because they're putting out some players.
Yeah, right. Number one, a lot of players show up here, and the person that was quoted in Katie Woo's article said we're turning out players, but not winning players. I want to have players that know how to make winning plays in baseball. And I don't think they're spending enough time learning that at the minor league level. My other issue,
fundamentals,
is coaching at the major league level. They aren't getting... did Jordan Walker get better when he was here? Did Nolan Gorman get better when he was here this year? Michael Ciani got a little bit better. Did Victor Scott II get better when he was here this year?
I'm not sure, and the answer is no. I'm not sure, though, that can happen at the major league level. The speed of the game, how hard it is, I think you can have incremental improvements.
That's what you need.
And I'm not sure, though, that you can all of a sudden say that Jordan Walker is the number one prospect in baseball like we thought he was because he came up to the major leagues and got with our coaching.
Yep. But I see a guy like Jackson Churio, who got off to an awful start with the Brewers.
Good example.
Turns into a superstar quality player. We've seen it with Austin Riley with the Braves. We've seen it with...
kid out in Arizona.
Yeah.
You're talking about Corbin Carroll.
Corbin Carroll.
Yes.
Got off to an awful start this year, and they stuck with him. All around baseball, there's young players that struggle, and whether it's through experience or coaching, they wind up getting better at the major league level.
What about the Padres and Mike Schilt, what he's been able to do? It's Mike Schilt baseball that you're seeing right now with the Padres. They're hitting well. They look crisper defensively. Those are all things that has the Mike Schilt touch on it.
And their Rookie of the Year candidate never played a day in center field before spring training. He was a shortstop, and Schilt puts him in center field, and they work on fundamentals every single day, and it makes a difference.
I just want to see more coaching at the minor league level, and I'd love to see more baseball people, guys that played in the league, be a part of this. And I understand that you have the pitching lab, what you're doing in Jupiter, more of an analytical look. And, as Chaim Bloom said, it's just amazing, the arms race, if you will, and what's happening with that. But the coaching by former major league players, I still think has a place in this game.
And John Mozeliak, he was asked about exactly how much money will be put into player development, because that's another question is, so how much money will be put into player development? They wouldn't put an actual figure on it, but he did say that it's estimated an 8 to 12% increase in player development spending for 2025, but he also cautioned that it was dependent on revenue numbers.
And Bloom probably has a better idea of what it takes to put together a really solid minor league coaching staff than anybody in the Cardinals because it's fallen off for the Cardinals.
But isn't this something that could turn into a vicious cycle? Because I want to focus on that last part of the sentence is dependent on revenue numbers.
Yeah.
And that was a big conversation yesterday is how do you get fans back into Busch Stadium? And it wasn't really answered. They said that they're going to look into different ways to get people engaged into games. The best way to get people engaged into games is a really good product on the field and winning games.
Yeah, there's going to come a point where if it does turn into a vicious cycle, that they're going to have to spend money to make money. They're going to have to risk losing money to make money.
So we were saying a few times on this program that if they went with a youth movement, would you guys be okay with that? I was.
I'm on board.
And so I'm going to say this. I don't think people go to the ball, and I could be completely wrong about this, and maybe some people do this. I don't think people go to the ballpark or not go to the ballpark because John Mozeliak is the president of baseball operations. I think people go to the ballpark because they want to see winning, to your point, Brooke, number one. And number two, if they're not winning, give me some exciting young players to watch, whether it's Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, maybe Nolan Gorman. I think that's why you go to the ballpark. I don't think people stay away from the ballpark or go to the ballpark because of who's sitting in that box. I just don't believe that.
Let's get a quick mic drop from Randy. I really didn't send it in.
Randy, dude, I love you to death. We share the same name. I've loved you since early 2000s and watching you with McGraw Millhaven on Chalk Talk way back in the day. But, dude, with all due respect, you've freaking lost your mind. Does anybody have a straight jacket? Because Randy's clearly gone off the deep end here.
I'm
Must be talking about the
assuming that you're
Kroenke
talking
comment.
about the Stan, what you said, the Stan Kroenke thing. I'm assuming, I hope that's what he's talking
Proud
about.
of you, Randy.
I have no context and I don't care. It was a fantastic mic drop. Do it again.
It was fun. Sean is here on 101 ESPN as well.
I can get the real one up. My bad.
You see, Randy, you scared people.
I agree with 100% of what you're saying. As a diehard Cardinal fan, it would just be nice if the ownership and front office would be honest and tell us what their plan is. If they're wanting to rebuild, just be upfront, be honest. We can deal with that, but it's the whole just question mark about everything and not being upfront. And last night, it just reminded me there's nothing more that I love than watching a clinching speech in the clubhouse right before they pop bottles and then champagne pops everywhere and how awesome and goosebump forming that is. And I don't see the Cardinals getting in that position for a while, and it's just a shame they don't have a plan to get there.
Agreed. By the way, can I give you a stat? Because we've talked a lot about the Cardinals in close
Take off your straight jacket.
Oh, yeah, got to. Cardinals in one-run games this year were 29-22. What's the expectation for a really good team in one-run games?
Probably two-thirds. You win two-thirds of those games.
So you played roughly 50. So go 35?
Yeah, 30, 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
35 and 15, 35 and 16. Okay. Just wanted to toss that out there. By the way, the other thing, because we always look at the Cardinals' record when they score a certain amount of runs, and this year was no different than any other year. When the Cardinals score 4 or more runs, their record is dramatically different than when they score 3 or fewer. And that's what they need to gun for, is to try to get to a point where they can score 4 or more runs a game. If they can do that, then on average, then they'll have a pretty good season.
How do they maximize their talent for 2025 at the major league level?
I think they need a new hitting coach. I know they need a different approach, and they need to be able to the mental approach to hitting with runners in scoring position is something that has to change, and they need somebody that can get to the players emotionally and mentally. And I think one of the problems the Cardinals have is when we talk about number of coaches, a pretty substantial number of young Cardinal hitters have their own personal people that they're going to. I think the Cardinals need to give those players options within the organization so they can say, here, use our guy, so that all the player coaching is done under the Cardinals umbrella.
Kind of to advance this story, to me, the next really important question is who stays with this team. If there's a reduction in payroll, who stays? That would be my immediate question. You understand what they're doing behind the scenes with the minor leagues? They kind of laid that out to an extent. The next question would be, what's the window for that to start producing major league ready players? I mean, they're getting the players, but I want to know, like, what did you do differently to make sure that these guys are fully ready once they hit the major leagues?
Let's develop Quinn Matthews. Let's develop Gordon Graceffo. Let's develop Chase Davis. Let's develop J.J. Weatherholt and get them here to be productive. By the way, I didn't give the numbers for you for the Cardinals when they score 4 or more. This year, when the Cardinals scored
pretty good.
4 or more runs, 63 and 24.
Yep.
When they scored less than 4 runs, 30 and 58.
Wow.
There you go.
That's very telling.
Yep. Sure is. So score 4 or more next year, guys. Coming up, we're going to give away Thomas Rhett tickets. Plus, we've got rock and roll here on 101 ESPN.
Nothing better than football season as we wrapped up week 4. If you followed the play last night, Monday Night Football, we did well. We hit on our 2-entry play in Monday Night Football yesterday. If you built on it, you might have added to that. If not, we stayed a little bit safe, and it ended up paying off for us. We're going to end up building a Major League Baseball one for tonight because that's my favorite thing about Underdog. I know a lot of people, over 1 million fans across 33 states, got in the game last year, mostly by playing with football. That's the big attraction. But here's the thing with Underdog. They have all the sports for you to put in entries for. So if you want to go with some WNBA playoffs right now, or if you just want to roll with the Major League Baseball playoffs tonight, you can do that. And then when we talk about Thursday, when you look forward to your NFL entries, you can already put them in now, and you can combine them with all the sports going on. Again, I'm building an MLB entry for tonight. We're going to go Tariq Skubal, higher than 5.5 strikeouts. Then we're going to go total bases on our other entries. We're going to go higher on Bobby Witt Jr., that's 1.5, higher on Pete Alonso, that's 0.5, and higher on Luis Ariz at 1.5 as well. So we're going higher on total bases on Bobby Witt Jr., Pete Alonso, and Luis Ariz, and then higher on 5.5 strikeouts for Skubal. So we're going to go one entry across all 4 Major League Baseball games today. It's Underdog Fantasy. It's my favorite way to play because I can play whichever way I want to. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. You can just head over to Underdog, simply use the mobile app, or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog's going to give you a free pick to use in your first Cash Champions entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus in President's Day where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consumer to play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
and roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
So back in the day, in the fantasy football world, several times I drafted former Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Eric Rhett.
R-H-E-T-T.
Yep, and now the opening drive has your shot, bless you, to score a pair of tickets to see Thomas Rhett. I also drafted Buccaneers running back Thomas Jones. So I drafted Thomas Jones and Eric Rhett, neither of whom are a country music star like Thomas Rhett. He's going to be in St. Louis on Saturday, June 7th at the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. And you can get tickets on sale now. You can find all the ticket details and a bonus chance to register to win at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 ESPN app. But you can get tickets for Thomas Rhett right now by texting into 314-399-9646. 314-399. There it is.
Yo-ho.
Feeling a little better.
You are.
It's getting there.
To win tickets for the Rhettster. And all you have to do is answer this question that has been curated by Matthew Rocc. What do you got for us, big boy?
Hold on, Matthew. I feel sorry for you.
It's fine.
Brooke had COVID. Randy was
fine.
sick. I was sick. You're next.
You're next.
Oh,
You're
so
next.
ominous.
Iron Constitution.
Yeah.
I love it.
Put whatever you want on that table, I'll match it. I'm not getting sick.
You're a gamer.
19 years in Cincinnati for Charlie Hustle. 5 years in Philadelphia. 1 year where?
Montreal.
God bless America, Danny Mac.
I think that was a question for the Thomas Rhett tickets.
Sorry. Sometimes I'm not paying attention, and I am paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I was paying attention to the question, but forgot that it was actually going to the tickets. I've done that twice now, and I apologize.
Did you say which number though? Because then we could still, if you're a text or whatever.
No, that was. Well,
okay.
let's do if you were listening closely then. So last night, the all-time record for completion percentage in a game is set by Jared Goff of the Lions, 18 for 18. However, it's not official because you need at least 20 attempts to qualify.
Can I answer this one?
No.
Okay.
What quarterback holds the record qualifying with at least 20 attempts in a game for the highest completion percentage in one NFL game? What quarterback holds that record?
I'm sorry, Matthew.
It's fine, Danny. That was amazing.
Let's do texter number 9.
Oh, God bless it.
Everybody's texting in Montreal right now.
Screwed up again.
That's fun. That's fun. All right. Anything else you got for us, big boy?
I just want to pull out one thing from yesterday because, and that's because Mo did this post presser, mini presser with all of you there. Brooke and Randy were there, and some of this did jump out to me because I don't think we saw a lot of quotes yesterday that you could directly point out as a response to some of the articles that have come out in the last week. That wasn't until John Mozeliak during this his post presser had a comment, which is, here's the line from Katie Wu that there's no way he's not commenting on these lines from the Katie Wu article. Talking about the Cardinal. The Cardinals have paid a steep price for their lack of coordinators. Quote unquote, when guys get to the majors, they're not ready, one staffer said. They have so many warts that they have to get taken care of in the big leagues. Later on in the next graph, fundamentals, one staffer said, is quote unquote where we're seeing guys really take a hit. I mean, these guys do not know the fundamentals of the game, and here was John Mozeliak yesterday.
I mean, nothing was a surprise. But having said that, it was great to have just a fresh set of eyes, fresh voice come in. I mean, as I was stating earlier, my team's been together a long time. And, you definitely can get set in your ways. But I do feel like over the past, week or so, I feel like someone like a Gary LaRocc has really gotten a sort of unfairly judged. I mean, he's one of the most respected guys in this game. He really ran an excellent farm system, and he did it with the resources he had. And, when you look at the players that we've been bringing up, I disagree with the statement that someone says they're not prepared. They might not perform right away because there is a learning curve, and not every player comes to the big leagues and succeeds right away. It's a hard game. It's a tough league. And so you look at the players that we have been able to produce and what Gary and his staff has done, I think it's really been remarkable.
I will add this. the Cardinals were at the forefront of teams that desired a contraction of minor league baseball that resulted in fewer players in the minors, less competition in the minors, and rushing players more to the majors, and also fewer draft picks in the draft, which leads to a smaller potential pool of great players. The competition to get to the major leagues inherently is going to be different when you have to only traverse 4 minor league teams rather than 6. And the Cardinals were one of the teams that wanted fewer minor league players. And if you're going to rush players, then just by definition, if they don't have as much experience, they aren't going to be as experienced.
Yeah, they admitted earlier this season they felt like they rushed Jordan Walker in that situation. And then what do you do with Jordan Walker? He's up and down all season. It felt like they really jerked him around. And then they brought him up even later on in the season in a very niche role where they knew that they wouldn't have many at-bats for him, just to send him back down again.
I'll be fascinated what position he is playing in spring training of next year.
First base?
I think you got to look at it if Goldie's not there.
He's tall. He's played corner infield before.
Yeah.
What about Ivan Herrera? There's so many questions to your point. Like, what are you doing with all of these guys?
Right.
Is Contreras here?
Is Contreras even here?
I mean, you had pretty good combination of Herrera and Pages. Not great, but it worked.
I like Wilson Contreras, and he's making $18 million a year. I wonder if any other team takes on Wilson Contreras at 3 more years at 18 per.
87 was the total, so doing the number, that's right.
So I wonder if there's a team out there, because nobody would trade for him when he was a rental. I wonder if there's a team that'll trade for him under contract at 18 mil.
I'm sitting there saying Jordan Walker, he's going to turn into Jose Martinez at first base. I mean,
or is he going to turn into Hector Cruz?
That too.
But you mentioned with Wilson Contreras, remember at the end of the season with their last homestand, what was Wilson Contreras' comments to the media about what he hopes to see this offseason and going into next year? He said that there was a lot of holes 1 through 9, and he put the pressure on the front office to help things at the major league level. What do you think his reaction was yesterday?
Yeah, probably not great. He probably reading.
I wonder though if the players knew this was coming. You know, some of the veterans that have been around for a while, they can read the room.
Yeah, and especially if you have your agent knows if you have one of those contracts where you have a 1-year option or a 1-year deal, you probably have a pretty good idea.
And just the reason why I played that and the reason why I think the answer that Bill had to one of Katie's questions are fascinating, because I'll paraphrase it here. If they're snapping at you, you're doing something right.
That's exactly right. Yep. Mm-hmm. I have a fun theory about the whole Paul Goldschmidt report, and I'll reveal that theory sometime later in the week.
When? Oh wait, you're gonna do it later this week?
Yep, I will.
Wow.
What report? That he's going
to Katie's story on Friday.
Oh, okay.
And then the Goldie report that Goldie won't be back.
Gotcha.
So that's it for the show. Great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocc. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yeah. What a tease that was,
How
Randy.
can you not have fun?
Such a tease.
Danny, thanks for powering through. You were awesome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks, guys, for helping me out. I appreciate it.
And we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. We have a balloon party with T-Mac and Ajax coming up for all of us until tomorrow morning at 7. Have a terrific Taco Tuesday, St. Louis.
Montreal.
Hey, if you're thinking about selling your home, I want you to get in touch with my friend Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, you would say, Randy, well, there's a lot of agents out there, but there's only one best agent, and that's Gloria Liu, who's been in the business for over 20 years and has a database of buyers that are ready and willing to buy in your neighborhood and at your price range. No other agent has that sort of database available that Gloria Liu has, and that's why she's the best in the business. You can find her by calling her at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or just go to GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. And one of the cool things about Gloria is if you don't sell your home at your agreed to price,